Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Young Deku Had a Necromancer Quirk? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku wakes up feeling strange. His 4th birthday was a week ago, meaning that they are in the middle of summer. The last few days have been hot, but he wakes up feeling chilly despite this. In an attempt to stay warm, he curls up and hides under the blankets, but the cold continues. Wrapping himself in the blankets like a cape, he gets up and looks for his mother, who is in the kitchen preparing breakfast. "Mom, I'm cold," he calls her. "Oh dear. Are you feeling?" His mom turns and pales when she looks at him. "Ill?" She runs to him and puts a hand on his forehead. "Dear God. You're freezing, Izuku." His mom quickly runs with Izuku to the hospital. His symptoms sound like hypothermia. His breathing is shallow, his skin cold and pale, and his heartbeat extremely slow, at only 20 BPM. But despite this, his movements are not slow, he is not confused or drowsy, and his speech is normal. His body temperature is only 27 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be considered severe hypothermia, but he shows no problems other than shivering. His shallow breathing and slow heartbeat don't seem to affect him. The doctors conclude that it must be his quirk manifesting. Izuku's mother appears to be worried about something upon hearing this, but she just thanks the doctors and takes Izuku home. She drops Izuku off at Aunt Mitsuki's house a few hours later. Despite the summer weather, Izuku is dressed as if he is going skiing. With a heavy jacket and pants, he just took off his mittens so he could write in his notebook. He is writing about a new hero who debuted a few months ago and has recently started a radio program. His quirk is so cool. Suddenly, he hears something tapping on Kaken's bedroom window, and he turns around just in time to see a little bird falling. Immediately, he closes his notebook, accidentally cutting his finger on the paper, and jumps from Kaken's bed. "Hey nerd, where are you going?" Kaken asks, pausing the game he's playing. "I need to help the bird." Izuku replies, running outside. Arriving outside, he soon finds the bird lying on the ground. He runs to try to help the bird, which he identifies as an oriental turtle dove, but he soon realizes that it is already dead. Kaken arrives just as Izuku is scooping the bird into his hands. Izuku looks at him with a few tears gathering in his eyes. "Do you think Auntie would help me bury it?" "Yes. I'm sure the hag will help," Kaken replies. They go back inside and find Aunt Mitsuki in the living room. Izuku opens his mouth to call her but stops when he feels movement in his hand. When he looks, the dove is moving. "It's alive?" Kaken asks. "I'm sure it was dead," Izuku replies. They look at each other for a few seconds. "Is this my quirk?" The next day, Izuku's mother takes him to a specialist to try to understand what his quirk is. When he explains what happened, they assume it is some kind of resurrection quirk. The doctor examines the pigeon, and his eyes instantly go wide. This bird looks alive but cold, and their heart is not beating. He looks at Izuku's mom. "From what I have seen, I believe that your son's quirk is a form of necromancy. We'll have to do a few tests to understand exactly how it works." Izuku's mom nods, and the doctor leaves, coming back a few minutes later with another doctor, this one wearing sunglasses. "Good morning. My name is Dr. Yogi Kenji, but I am usually called Dr. Quirk." The new doctor says, "My quirk works with eye contact. By looking into a person's eyes for a few seconds, I can see details about their quirk. Type, functionalities, side effects, and drawbacks, among other things. It also shows me what quirks combined to create the new one." He smiles at Izuku. "Having said that, can I examine your son's quirk?" "Of course, doctor," Izuku's mom replies. "Then excuse me." The doctor takes off his sunglasses, revealing his eyes which are shaped like camera lenses. He gently takes Izuku's hand and looks at him. "Just look into my eyes. It's no problem if you blink, but don't turn your head." "Okay," Izuku replies. The doctor looks at him for about 30 seconds. "Oh, that's indeed an interesting quirk." He turns to Izuku's mom. As the other doctor suspected, Your son's quirk is a blood-based form of necromancy. He can reanimate corpses that come in contact with his blood. The amount of blood needed to reanimate a body depends primarily on the subject's size. His quirk caused some mutations in his body to protect him. Izuku's skin is fragile, and he bleeds easily. But in compensation, he replenishes lost blood and heals faster. His wounds heal in half the time of a normal person. The decrease in body temperature and heart rate is his defense mechanism. Because of his fragility, an injury could easily make him bleed to death, but because of his lower body temperature and heart rate, this won't be a problem. He taps his chin a few times, then adds, "The reason he's feeling so cold is because his body is still not used to the new quirk, but soon he will get used to it, and cold will not affect him at all." Izuku's mom narrows her eyes at the explanation. "What quirks formed his quirk?" she asks. The doctor raises an eyebrow. His quirk is primarily a mutation of a quirk called manipulation by blood. He also has traces of a quirk called attraction of small objects. He explains, and Izuku's mom immediately pales. "Anyway, I have everything I need. You can go to the counter in the lobby to register his quirk." "Thank you, doctor," she says with her voice a bit strained, then leaves. Immediately she returns with Izuku to the car. "Mom, don't we need to register my quirk?" Izuku asks, and she looks at him with a furious expression. "What quirk?" she asks, snatching the dove from his hands. "You have no quirk. The doctor said you're quirkless." Then she throws the pigeon to the floor and stomps hard on its head. Izuku can only stare in shock as she opens the door and pushes him into the car. "Not a word about what happened here. Understood? Your father can't know." By now, Izuku is crying, but she ignores him, and when they get home, she sends him to his room. His mom tells his dad that the doctor said Izuku is quirkless, and she keeps the lie for about a week. Unfortunately for her, registering quirks is required by law. So a week after the visit to the specialist, when she has not yet registered Izuku's quirk, they receive a call informing them that they need to register it. The one who answers the call is Hisashi, and with that, the lie ends. That night, Izuku hears his parents screaming. He discovers that Hisashi is not his biological father. His mom had an affair with a coworker, and Izuku's quirk is a mutation of his quirk. Izuku cries himself to sleep with his parents' angry shouts as background noise. The next day, they register Izuku's quirk under the name Necromancy. For a whole week, Izuku listens to his parents fighting every night, but in the end, they stay together. Izuku wishes they hadn't. His mom starts ignoring him after that. But Hisashi makes it clear that he hates Izuku. Any excuse he can use to beat up Izuku he uses. At school, things are not much better. Necromancy is not a quirk well regarded by society. Immediately after having his quirk revealed, his classmates start calling him a villain. The silver lining is that they know that Izuku's quirk is blood-based and that his skin is fragile. So out of fear of him, they never physically attack him. Kaken does not join in the bullying, but he begins to distance himself from Izuku, and after a month, the two hardly speak to each other anymore. Kaken just ignores Izuku. Things are terrible at school, but still, it's a paradise compared to home. For 2 years, Hisashi becomes more and more aggressive, while Inko becomes more and more negligent. The limit comes one day while Izuku is hiding in his room. Hisashi enters and grabs him by the arm, dragging him out. Izuku narrowly manages to get his shoes from the doorway. Hisashi shoves Izuku into the car and starts driving down a road that Izuku doesn't know. Afraid of what he is about to do, Izuku begins to cry, but Hisashi ignores him. They stop in front of a forest, and Hisashi takes a small backpack and goes back to drag Izuku by the arm. They gear up deep in the forest, and after about 20 minutes of random walking, Hisashi lets go of Izuku's arm and drops the backpack in front of him. "I don't care what you do now. Just never appear in front of me again," Hisashi says and leaves. Izuku stands there crying for several minutes without knowing what to do. It was winter, and he was only wearing his pajamas, but as the doctor said, the cold stopped affecting him a few weeks after his quirk manifested. When his tears are dry, Izuku opens the backpack Hisashi left with him. Inside is a small folded blanket, a few water bottles, and some food. Probably Hisashi's attempt to ease his conscience. Without much to do, Izuku chooses a random direction and starts walking. He feels as if he has been walking for hours. His feet begin to hurt, and he decides to stop and rest. At that moment, he hears a howl coming from deeper in the forest and starts to run in panic. Soon he trips over something and falls face down on the ground. A bit of dirt gets into his mouth. Izuku stands up, spitting the dirt out of his mouth, and looks at what he has stumbled upon. His eyes widen as he sees a burnt and nearly crumbling skull. Before thinking much, he hears another howl, this time much closer. He looks again at the skull and runs to it, kneeling in front of it. Izuku looks at his wrist, and after only a moment's hesitation, he bites down hard, easily tearing the fragile skin. He places his wrist over his skull and lets the blood gush out. As soon as the blood touches the skull, it begins to regenerate. Nearby bones are drawn together to form a complete skeleton except for the missing jawbone in the skull. A growl makes Izuku turn around, and he sees a large lone wolf approaching him with drool dripping from its snout. Izuku starts running, despite knowing he can't outrun a wolf, but the panic is speaking louder. The wolf gives chase. The wolf soon catches up with Izuku and jumps in front of him. Izuku almost doesn't stop before crashing into them. He takes a few steps back but trips over his own feet and falls to the ground. The wolf approaches him, growling, and then jumps up to attack. Izuku covers his face with his hands, waiting for the pain. But instead, a flash of light appears, followed by a whine. Then he hears the wolf running away. "Are you okay, kid?" Izuku removes his arm from his face, and in front of him he sees a skeleton. A real skeleton. Just a pile of bones that is somehow moving and talking despite not having a jawbone. In their eye sockets, they have turquoise lights. And in their hands, blue flames slowly fade. Their voice sounds male. "Who are you?" Izuku asks. "I am." The skeleton stops, then turns around with their hands on their waist, then puts one hand on their upper jaw, and then starts scratching their skull. "Who am I?" "You don't remember? Nothing at all?" Izuku asks as he gets up from the ground. "I'm male." The skeleton says, looking more like a question. "I think I'm about 13 years old. My quirk is cremation. And that's it." "I guess it's because you were dead for a long time," Izuku starts muttering. "He was just bones until I revived him. Actually, just being able to move is strange enough. There is nothing holding him together. He should just disassemble. And how does he speak if he has no vocal cords? Or hear if he has no tympani? Or see without eyes? Well, I think those lights are eyes, but still. And how dash? Kid." A snap of bony fingers cuts the mutter storm. "Quirks are FNG weird. Don't repeat this word, okay? Anyway, from what I gathered, you revived me." He looks at his body. "Kinda." Izuku immediately starts waving his hands and apologizing. "I'm sorry, I was alone for so long in this forest, then I heard the howling, and I saw your bones." Izuku explains. "I'm sorry I didn't ask your permission. I was dead." The skeleton replies. "Unless you have an Ouija board with you, how are you supposed to ask for permission?" Izuku shrugs, not quite sure of how to reply to that. "I can send you back? If you want to." "You can?" the skeleton asks. Izuku thinks for a while, then shrugs. "I don't know. It's the first time I use my quirk since I was people don't like necromancy." He explains. "Well, I'm not in a hurry to die a second time anyway." The skeleton smiles. How can Izuku tell that he's smiling? "So, want to stick together for now?" "Okay, Mr. Skeleton." Izuku smiles. "Please, don't call me that." The skeleton replies. "Then what do you want to be called?" Izuku asks, tilting his head. The skeleton thinks for a few seconds, then smirks at Izuku. Again, it's weird that Izuku can tell he's smirking. "Call me Dobby." Homeless life is both simpler and more complicated than Izuku could have imagined. On the very first night, they learn that Dobby doesn't need sleep and doesn't feel hunger or thirst. It may seem obvious, after all, he has no stomach or any other organs or muscles or skin or... You get the idea. but he also has no vocal cords and can speak. As Dobby said, quirks are FNG weird. That's another thing about Dobby. He swears like a sailor. And this is with him trying to censor himself in front of Izuku. Not that Izuku cares about swearing. Hell, Kaken and Aunt Mitsuki swear all the time. Izuku may only be 6 years old, but he knows every swear word imaginable. But he's getting off the subject. Life on the streets. Since Dobby doesn't need to sleep, he stands guard while Izuku sleeps. The next day, they found a way back to the city. And also, their first problem, a skeleton, attracts a lot of attention. Even with the countless mutation quirks that exist, a skeleton is something that is not commonly seen. The blanket that Hisashi put in Izuku's backpack ends up serving as a makeshift cloak. And they end up resorting to dumpster diving in search of food. Dobby suggests robbing a convenience store, but Izuku quickly shoots the idea down. He's not a villain and doesn't intend to act like one. To avoid attracting attention, they usually go out at night. Going out at night means fewer people to bump into. But it also means a greater chance of encountering crime. Or, in this case, a crime scene. Honestly, Izuku thought he would feel worse seeing a dead body for the first time. Well, second if you count Dobby, but he was only a skull. This man with shoulder-length white hair, lying on the ground in a pool of his own blood, with an obvious stab wound in his abdomen, doesn't seem to have been dead for more than a few hours. Still, Izuku doesn't feel nervous looking at him. Could this be another effect of his quirk? It has been a few hours since he died. Dobby says, grabbing the corpse's arm and trying to move it. See? This is called rigor mortis, and it usually happens 4 to 8 hours after death. And how do you know that? Izuku asks. I have no idea. Dobby shrugs. I was probably a fan of criminal TV series. Then he looks back at the body. Anyway, will you do your thing? What? Izuku looks at him, surprised. You want me to reanimate him? Why not? Dobby asks. This place isn't exactly hidden, so if he has been there for so long, there's probably no one searching for him. And having a zombie who actually looks human and adult could really help us. I guess. Izuku looks back at the body. But still, isn't that unethical? It's your quirk, kid. There's nothing wrong with using it. Dobby replies. After he wakes up, you can ask him if he wants to stay alive. But unless it was suicide, I doubt that anyone would want to die. Okay, I guess. Izuku is still slightly unsure, but he kneels in front of the body. Izuku turns the body so that it's lying on its back. He then bites his wrist and lets the blood fall on the corpse. The result is almost instantaneous. The pool of blood begins to flow back into the body, and then the wound closes. When the process is over, the only evidence that this man had been stabbed is the tear in his shirt. Izuku applies pressure to stop the bleeding, and his regeneration takes care of the rest. A scab soon forms, which stops the bleeding. A few seconds later, the man begins to move. He opens his hazel eyes and quickly takes in everything around him. As if remembering something, he throws himself into a sitting position and brings his hand to his abdomen, where his wound was. Am I alive? Hello, mister. Izuku greets. I'm Midoriya Izuku, and I brought you back. Brought me back? The man asks, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, he did the same to me. Dobby says, waving a bony hand. You kicked the bucket. The man frowns, rubbing his abdomen. I think it was mugging? He says, tilting his head. The guy had a knife, I'm sure. Do you remember anything else? Izuku asks. Dobby didn't even remember his name. I think it was because he was dead for a long while. I only found his bones. Ah, so you really are a skeleton? The man asks. I really thought you were the scrawniest person I have ever seen. You don't seem to have a six-pack under that shirt either. Dobby replies. A-hole. The man chuckles and then looks back to Izuku. Let me think. He stops for a few seconds. Name? I'm drawing a blank. I think I'm 24 years old. I'm 90% sure I lived alone. My quirk is called mending. It's a healing quirk that draws from my own stamina to heal wounds. It's very inefficient, so even healing small wounds makes me exhausted. The kid reanimated a few days ago, and I didn't feel tired even once since then. Dobby says, I don't need to eat, drink, or sleep. I'm almost sure I have infinite stamina. Worth a try. The man shrugs. Is any of you wounded? Izuku shows him his wrist. My quirk is blood-based. He explains. I need my blood to touch a body to reanimate it. He thinks for a bit as the man holds his arm and looks at the wound. I also have a few scars on my back. My father really hated me. The man nods and gently puts his hand above the wound. A green glow comes out of his hand, and Izuku has a warm feeling in his body. When the man removes his hand, the wound is completely gone, including the scars beginning to form. You're right. The man turns to Dobby. I don't feel any tired. Wow. Mister, your quirk is amazing. Izuku says, and he feels his shirt being lifted. Hey, he healed your scars too. Dobby says, looking at his back. Interesting. I wonder what are my new limits. The man says, I wonder if I could give you back your body. Maybe. Dobby shrugs. But I like being a skeleton. It freaks people out. I'd really like to find some clothes though. Do you remember anything else? Izuku asks. Not really. He pats his pockets. No cell phone, no wallet either. The guy who mugged me probably took both. He pats his coat pocket. Oh, keys. He looks at Izuku. I think I was close to home. Are you up for trying to go house by house until we find mine? Not really, but do we have a choice? Izuku asks. Well, you could pretend to be someone who knows me and knock on a house asking for me. The man replies. What? 3 a.m? Dobby shoots back. The only he'll get is a door to the face. Let's go with the first plan for now. Izuku suggests. Who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky? Spoiler, they don't get lucky. For the next few hours, they try house by house on this street and the nearby streets. None opens. As dawn breaks, the first people start to leave for work. Decide to go to Plan B. The man and Dobby hide while Izuku approaches a woman leaving her house. Excuse me, miss. Izuku calls her, putting on his best innocent face. The effect is reduced by the dirt accumulated on his skin, as well as her pale appearance, but the woman doesn't question it. I'm looking for my uncle's house. He's tall, long white hair, hazel eyes, pale skin. The woman thinks for a few seconds. I see him every once in a while. She points to the next street. He always comes from there, but I'm not sure of where he lives. Thank you, miss. Izuku replies, bowing his head. You're welcome. She replies, turning away to leave. Whoever he is, I hope he treats you better than whoever was your guardian before. She mutters as she leaves. Izuku goes back to Dobby and the man. She pointed the next street, but she doesn't know the house. Izuku explains. Well, let's go. The man says. The next street has a lot of apartments. Izuku tries one of them and is met by a tall man with tan skin, brown hair and brown eyes. He appears to be middle-aged. Excuse me, mister. Do you know where my uncle lives? Izuku asks. He's tall, long white hair, hazel eyes, pale skin. The man raises an eyebrow. He never mentioned family before. Then he shrugs. Not that I asked, I don't really care as long as he pays his rent on time. I'm his landlord. He explains. He lives on the 3rd floor. Apartment let him know that his rent is due in a week. Thank you, mister. Izuku replies and starts going to the stairs. The man observes him for a few more seconds, then go back inside and closes the door. As soon as Izuku is sure he won't come back, he waves for Dobby and the man. Is it here? Dobby asks. He said it's on the 3rd floor. Izuku replies. Apartment 564. Cool, let's go. The man replies. Hopefully, I have something with my name there. He also said that your rent is due in 1 week. Izuku adds. Hopefully I'm not hurting for cash. The man mumbles. Arriving at the apartment in question, he tries the key. The 3 of them sigh in relief when the door opens. All right, come on in. Make yourself at home, I guess. The man says, entering and taking off his shoes. Izuku does the same, but Dobby isn't wearing any shoes, so he just enters. The man explores his own house while Izuku stands awkwardly at the entrance. Dobby shamelessly lies down on his sofa. "DM it." The man curses as he enters back. "How is it possible that I don't have a single electric bill with my name on it? Maybe everything goes to the landlord and he just repasses it later?" Dobby suggests. "No use on thinking too much on it. I mean, I don't remember my name either." "Really? So your parents didn't name you Cremation?" The man asks with a smirk. "What kind of parents would name their child that?" Dobby asks. "Nowadays? Many." The man replies with a shrug. "Anyway." He turns to Izuku. "While Dobby and I don't need to eat or sleep, I assume you do." On cue, Izuku's stomach grumbles, and he looks away in embarrassment. The man points to a door on the left. "I'll fix something for you. Meanwhile, you can take a bath." "Thank you." Izuku bows. "It's been at least a week since I last took a bath." "It's no problem." The man waves him off. "I'll have some clothes ready for you. They'll be a bit too large, but it's better than wearing your dirty clothes." Izuku nods and enters the bathroom. The bathroom is relatively cramped, but Izuku doesn't mind. He cleans himself while the tub fills up. He needs to repeat the process about 3 times to get all the grime off that he has accumulated after days on the streets. He hesitates a bit before using the shampoo, but he needs to wash his hair. He decides that he will find a way to repay the man later. He frowns as he sees how much dirt falls from his curls. He hears a knock at the door. "Hey kid," Dobby calls. "I'm leaving a few towels and clothes in front of the door. The man said you can use anything you need." Then he leaves, muttering, "We need something better to call him than the man." Izuku stays in the bathroom for a few more minutes, carefully cleaning every part he can reach. When he's finally satisfied, he rinses himself off and opens the door. He finds a small pile of neatly folded clothes and towels in front of the door. Before getting dressed, he looks at himself in the mirror. His dull eyes and pale face greet him as usual, a sight he has grown accustomed to after a few months. His bizarre appearance earned Izuku the nickname Corpse at school, but he has never cared much for it. He knows he looks like a walking corpse. Gently running his hand over his chest and back, he notes that, as Dobby said, the scars from Hisashi's abuse are gone. As if they never existed. Izuku is grateful for that. He hated those scars. He doesn't need any more reminders of how much his parents hated him. Shaking his head, he turns to the pile of clothes. As expected, the clothes are too big for Izuku. Shorts that ends up being pants on him, a shirt that looks like a dress and leaves one of his shoulders exposed. After clearing everything as neatly as possible, he leaves the bathroom and heads to the kitchen, where he finds a plate of toast on the table. "So, I just found out that I can't cook," the man says, pointing to the sink where there's a pan with something so burnt that it's impossible to say what it was supposed to be. "Fortunately, you can't go wrong when making toast. It's more than enough." Izuku replies, sitting down at the table. "Thank you, mister." "Come on, kid, drop the mister." The man replies, "You saved my life. Or gave it back to me. You're still dead." Izuku replies, "Your heart doesn't beat anymore, and you don't need to breathe. But I'm still here." The man replies, "I might not remember who I was before, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, look around." He gestures to the apartment. "I can say that I was a 24-year-old man with no family, living alone in an apartment in one of the worst parts of Mustafu. I doubt there's too much I'd rather remember." He smiles at Izuku. "I'm grateful for the second chance you gave me, Midoriya." "Same here, shorty." Dobby replies, "You're not that taller than him." The man teases, "I bet he'll get taller than you in no time." "Maybe, but I'll tease him while I still can." Dobby shrugs. Izuku smiles as he eats. It's just toast, but it tastes so good. Maybe it's just the hunger, but he can't remember anything he ate in the last 2 years to taste that good. "Well, don't say I didn't warn you when he gets taller." Then you and starts teasing you back. The man teases. As they bicker, Izuku let out a little giggle behind the toast. It must be the company. It's what he decides. When was the last time he ate with someone? In the last 2 years at home, when Inko remembered to feed him, He always ate alone in his room. But here, with the two bickering happily, Izuku almost feels like he has a family again. Izuku feels something dripping on his hand and looks, finding a drop on it. He looks up, expecting to see a drip, but there is nothing. Another drop drips on his arm, and he suddenly realizes that Dobby and the man had stopped talking. Izuku turns to them, and they are looking at him with surprised expressions. "What?" Izuku asks, surprising himself with his shaky voice. He brings a hand to his face and feels it wet. "Oh, I'm crying," he says eloquently. "Why am I crying?" He asks no one in particular. "I'm so happy right now. So why am I crying?" "People can cry from happiness too," Dobby says. Izuku remembers a time when he used to cry from happiness all the time. But it feels like such a long time ago. He finishes eating in silence, with tears still falling, but no one comments on them. The man simply puts a cup of water in front of him, and Izuku gives him a watery smile before drinking. The tears dry up after a few seconds, and Izuku begins to feel sleepy. Looking at the wall, he sees a clock hanging down that reads about 7:30 a.m. He has been up all night, and while Dobby doesn't need sleep, he does. He tries to stifle a yawn while rubbing his eyes. "Come on, you can sleep in my bed," the man says, picking Izuku up. He takes Izuku to a simple plain room with a desk and a bed in the corner and tucks Izuku in the bed, putting a blanket on him. "You're quite good with kids," Dobby comments. "Are you sure you don't have family?" "I don't really remember," the man replies. "But I feel that I don't." "Makes sense." "It does," Dobby says. "I mean, I feel that I had family, but at the same time, I feel that I don't want to go back to them." He pauses for a moment. Izuku feels his eyes getting heavier as the two starts leaving. "You know, we need something to call you. I don't know if we'll ever find out and reclaim your old name, but just calling the man is confusing." "Fair enough," the man says. I know." He snaps his fingers. The last thing Izuku hears before falling asleep is the man saying with a smirk in his voice, "Call me Frank. Frankenstein." Then he drifts into a dreamless sleep, free of nightmares for the first time in months. Dobby remembers nothing of his former life. His first clear memory is waking up in a forest and hearing a howl. When he got up, he saw a child being attacked by a wolf, and before he could think clearly, he attacked the wolf with his flames, which for some reason he knew he possessed. One look at the small boy, pale, trembling with fear, with dull green eyes, was enough. Something about him made Dobby feel protective, and that was before he even found out that the boy was basically the one who gave him back his life. That night, Dobby made a promise that he would protect this boy with his life. Or death. Being a zombie is confusing. After seeing the boy cry over something as simple and basic as a plate of toast, this commitment only grew. Protecting Izuku isn't enough. Dobby will make sure he is happy, no matter what he has to do. For some reason, Dobby already thinks of him as a younger brother. He watches for a few minutes while Izuku sleeps. He's so quiet, his breathing almost non-existent, and his pale skin would make anyone who entered the room at that moment think he's dead. The man, Frank, gestures for Dobby to follow him, and he scutters silently out of the bedroom. The upside of being a skeleton is that he's so light that walking without making noise is laughably easy. Dobby carefully closes the door, which fortunately doesn't creak. He follows Frank into the kitchen and watches as the new zombie starts making tea. "Can you even drink?" Dobby asks. "Don't know, but I can try." Frank shrugs. "My sense of touch, sight, hearing, and smell work. Why not taste?" "Fair enough," Dobby replies. "So, what are we doing now?" "I'm already attached," Frank says. "That kid is adorable. How can anyone even think of being cruel to him?" "He didn't tell me much, but from what I gathered. Abusive father, negligent mother." Dobby explains. "Looks like the father had enough. Brought him to a forest, dropped the kid and left. He found my bones there." He clenches his fists. "Had I woken up just a few seconds later, he would have been mauled by a wolf." "DMNBSTRDS. Frank growls. "You two can stay for as long as you want. I'm already invested." "The group will probably grow," Dobby warns. I'm sure he'll find more of us. As morbid as it sounds, I think the kid has a knack for finding corpses. He smirks. I mean, he found me and you in less than a week. If this place gets too crowded, I can see about finding a new one. Frank shrugs. Let the kid create his new family. Dobby chuckles. So, what do we do now? The kid will probably sleep for a few hours. And I can't really leave like this. I draw too much attention. Being basically naked doesn't help. For now. He fishes a credit card from his pocket. I'll see about getting you two a few clothes. Do you even know the password? Dobby asks. I have a hunch. Frank shrugs. I might not remember, but I can see my personality didn't change. So I can guess what I'd choose as a password. Fair enough. Dobby replies. We can see what else we can do later. Good thing neither me nor you really needs to eat. It'll help save money. Frank agrees as he finishes his cup of tea. He tastes it. Yup, palate still works. On another note, my inability to cook also translates into brewing tea. He dumps all the tea in the sink. This is the worst tea I've ever had. This is technically the first tea you ever had. Dobby replies. My point still stands. Frank shrugs. Anyway, I'm going now. You can take a bath too. I think the TV works, and help yourself to any clothes that you think it might fit you. Then he gets up and leaves the apartment. Dobby gets up, and after thinking for a few minutes, he decides to take a bath. He doesn't sweat, but his bones are covered in dirt and dust. He soon learns that washing is extremely difficult, especially when it comes to cleaning between his joints. On another note, he also learns that he has detachable limbs. After the frankly much longer than intended bath, he silently enters Frank's room, being careful not to wake up Izuku, and takes a few clothes. He doesn't really look at what he picks, he just wants something to wear. He ends up taking a pair of jogging pants and a simple sports t-shirt. Like with Izuku, they are too big, but they will do the trick for now. He stops to look in the mirror for a moment. As expected, he's a skeleton, so there is not much to see. Frank offered to try to bring his body back, but Dobby refused. While what he said about liking to freak people out is true, this is not the only reason. For some reason, the thought of having his old face back fills him with anxiety. It's unlikely that Dobby will ever recover his memories, so he will probably never know why. But it's okay, he honestly likes his current look. A few hours later, Frank returns. Izuku is still sleeping. The poor boy must have been exhausted, and he's only 6 years old. They let him rest while Frank shows Dobby the clothes he bought. Apparently he was right about his credit card password. For Dobby, he brought simple shorts, a white long-sleeved shirt with a black stripe in the arms, and a hooded jacket. He said it's just for him to have something to wear, and that afterwards they can go to the stores so he and Izuku can decide what they want to wear. About 2 hours later, Izuku finally leaves the room, rubbing his eyes and yawning. An honestly lovely scene. Frank hands him the clothes, and a few minutes later he comes back wearing a pair of dark blue jeans and a black hoodie. This will contrast horribly with the pair of red tennis shoes the boy is wearing, but who is Dobby? Fashion police? Izuku seems happy with his new clothes, and that's all that matters to Dobby. Straight face. It is a few months later that they meet their next addition to the group. While living with Frank, Izuku and Dobby often search dump sites for materials that they can recycle and earn some money. Their main source of income is Frank, who has started working as a healer in an underground clinic, but they do their best to pull their own weight. It's on one of these visits to the garbage dump that Izuku begins to smell an awful odor, different from the usual garbage smell. Deciding to check it out, he finds, for a change, a corpse buried in the garbage. From the looks of it, this body had been there for a few days. The body is already decomposing, and he can see maggots moving around inside of it. Dobby! Izuku calls. I don't think it's a good idea to just reanimate this one. Dobby gets closer and frowns looking at the body. You're probably right. Dobby replies. I know you can restore the body, but there's no way to know if the maggots won't be stuck inside him. Gross. But how do we carry him back? Izuku asks. Wait here for now. Dobby says. And starts running. Izuku shrugs and waits. Dobby returns about an hour later with a large blanket, a suitcase, and a can of aerosol. Your plan? Izuku asks, raising an eyebrow. This should neutralize the smell for a while. Dobby explains. We can stuff the body in the suitcase and take it home. We should wait until it gets dark. Izuku says. If someone stops us and notices we carrying a body, yeah, it'll be an awkward explanation. Dobby nods. The two wait until dark, then stow the body in the blanket and then in the suitcase, and take the body back to the apartment. Fortunately, no one stops them on the way. Hey, found something today? Frank asks as they enter. You usually get back a lot earlier. Yeah, you could say we found. Dobby says. The next one. You brought a dead body here? Frank asks. Why not just reviving him like with me? This one was dead for a few days. Izuku replies. And in the garbage dump. I don't know if just reanimating him will remove the maggots. I see. Frank nods. Bring him in. I'll prepare a place for us to work. They bring the man to the bathroom and puts it in the bathtub. A few minutes later, Frank enters with some surgical instruments. Are you a surgeon? Dobby asks. Apparently I'm skilled enough to perform emergency surgeries. Frank shrugs. My quirk helps too. Well, what do you know? Dobby says, then looks back at the body. So, how do we do this? We need to kill them first. Frank replies. Izuku, fill the tub. Izuku nods and starts filling the tub. Just by that, a few of them starts falling from the body. Great now, Dobby. Dobby hums in acknowledgement. I need you to boil the water as much as you can. Doesn't matter if it evaporates. Alright, fall back please. He puts his hands on the water which instantly starts boiling. He holds it until the water evaporates, then they fill it up again and repeat a few times. Alright, I think it's enough. Frank says. Now, leave the rest for me. He says, opening his bag and taking out a scalpel. This might take a while, but I'll call you when I finish. Then he lies the body on the floor and starts working on it. Dobby takes Izuku out and prepares something for him to eat. They promptly try to block the recent memories. About 3 hours later, Frank calls them back. It's ready, he says. Izuku enters the bathroom and finds the corpse lying there. For the first time, he looks at it. There isn't much left to identify him, but he looks male, probably in his 30s. From what was left of the face, Izuku can identify short black hair and a few scars. Taking a knife from the kitchen, he slashes his arm and lets the blood fall on the body. Like it happened with Frank, the body starts repairing itself. First, the decomposition reverses itself, revealing a little more of his features. Izuku notices several wounds in the form of holes in his chest. He was probably shot to death. These then disappear. Finally, the dozens of scars spread over his body also disappear. When it's over, he gives his hand to Frank, who quickly heals the slash. Alright, now we wait for him to wake up. Frank says. Can you bring him to the living room? I'll start cleaning this. I can help. Izuku offers. Leave it to me, kiddo. Frank replies, ruffling his curls. It'll be better if you're with him when he wakes up. Izuku nods and helps Dobby carry the man to the sofa. As soon as they lay the man there, he jumps up, opening his gray eyes in alarm. Hey, it's okay. Izuku tries. Where am I? The man asks. And who are you? You're in our home. Izuku replies. We found you in a garbage dump. My name is Midoriya Izuku, and my quirk is Necromancy. Necromancy? The man asks, then taps his chest. I feel that I should have scars. Is this your doing? It asks hesitantly. Did I die? Yes, I'm sorry. Izuku replies. The man finally calms down a bit and sits back at the sofa. Do you remember anything about yourself? Let me think. He thinks for a while. I'm 34. My quirk is weapons mastery. I can use any weapon expertly, even if I'm holding it for the first time. I think I fought people? You're not a hero, I know. Izuku says. And there was no missing heroes announced recently. So I think you were a vigilante. It's possible. The man replies, looking at himself. My clothes are ruined, but I can see some things that were probably part of my gear. I can't say I remember anything else. So, you remember a little more than Dobby, but less than Frank. Izuku mutters. So I might be right. The time between death and reanimation is important to how much you'll remember. Well, you're welcome to stay with us. Dobby says. You just need a name. A name, huh? He thinks for a while. How about Ronin? Good for me. I'm Dobby. Dobby introduces himself. The kid is Dash. Midoriya Izuku. Izuku says. Nice to meet you, Ronin-san. Drop the honorifics, kid. Just Ronin is enough. Ronin replies. Well, I'm Frank. Frank says as he enters. Frankenstein. And now that you're back to the living world, I guess, you can take a bath. I'll prepare some clothes for you. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Ronin replies. Especially if I was in garbage dump. Ronin fits into their dynamics effortlessly. He's the only one there who has any cooking skills. His food tastes terrible, but at least it's edible, unlike whatever Frank and Dobby try to make. After a few weeks with them, Izuku asks Ronin to start training him. He wants to learn how to defend himself. Ronin eventually accepts, and they start training in the forest where Izuku was dropped by his father. First, he starts learning how to use a staff. Izuku soon catches himself looking up to Ronin. While he looks up to Dobby and Frank, seeing them as older brothers, Ronin to him is like a father figure. He's kind despite being stern, always explains their training to Izuku, and doesn't get angry when he makes mistakes. He reminds Izuku of how Hisahi was before everything went downhill. He just hopes it doesn't turn the same with him too. A few weeks later, while he was returning home from yet another training session, Izuku literally stumbles upon his next friend. When he looks back and sees another skeleton, he begins to wonder what is wrong with this forest. This skeleton is half buried, looking as if someone has buried it in a hurry, and the wind has dug it up in time. Sweeping some of the earth with his hands, he soon realizes that this skeleton is not human. From the looks of it, it can't be a wolf either, it's too small. From the skull, Izuku assumes it's a cat. Should I? Izuku hesitates. He didn't try reviving an animal since that first dove. I say, go for it, kid. Ronin replies, smiling at him. The landlord doesn't care about animals anyway. And it's not like anyone would mind. Izuku nods, and slashes his hand with a knife he'd been carrying for this kind of situation. Like with Dobby, the bones gather around, and Izuku was about to move his hand away, when he notices something. Organs start to regrow on the cat's skeleton, followed by muscle, then skin, and finally dark purple fur. It takes a few minutes, but the cat is back to a perfect state. Wait, could I have done the same with Dobby? Izuku asks no one in particular. Now that I think about it, I didn't finish the process with Dobby, I had to run from the wolf. A hiss brings him back from his thoughts. He looks down and sees the cat hissing at him. I won't hurt you. I promise. Izuku says, putting his hand away from the cat. I'm Izuku. Midoriya Izuku. Are you talking to a cat like they can understand you? Ronin asks, and the cat starts scratching at the ground. Yeah. Cats are smarter than you think. Izuku replies. Sure. But you're talking to them like they can understand every word. Ronin replies. Meow. They look down, and under the cat's paw is written, I can understand you. Okay, the cat can write. Ronin says. Sure, why not? A highly intelligent zombie cat. You're a zombie too, you know. Izuku replies and opens his arms. Would you like to come with us? The cat approaches cautiously. I know it's scary, but I promise I won't hurt you. I brought you back. This boy cried the other day because I killed a spider. He doesn't have a single mean bone in his whole body. Ronin says. The poor spider was just living her life. Izuku says. Now who'll feed the baby spiders? Frankly, kid. Ronin shakes his head fondly. Finally deciding that they aren't a threat, the cat jumps on Izuku's arms. Izuku gets up and starts walking home with Ronin. I'm sorry, but I don't have much warmth for you. Izuku says. It's part of my quirk. My skin is cold. Do you have a quirk too, right? The cat narrows their eyes at him, but nods slowly. Is that why you were hurt before? Do you remember anything? The cat first nods, then shakes their head. Their bones were there for a good while. It's hard to say for how long they were dead. Ronin says. When animals with quirks were rarer, it was normal for them to be either killed or experimented on. Things only began to change after Nedzu got the same rights as humans. How can someone hurt a baby like this? Izuku asks, then looks back at the cat. Are you male? The cat hisses. Female then. The cat meows. We need to find you a name. Do you have something in mind? She shakes her head. Grape? Ronin suggests, earning himself a hiss. I think she doesn't like it. Izuku chuckles. Meh, naming is not my strong suit anyway. Ronin shrugs. They go home, and Izuku brainstorm names with Dobby. Rose? Izuku suggests. But she's purple? Dobby replies. There are purple roses. Izuku shrugs. What about B30? Dobby. Who names their cat BSTRD? What's next? Sushi? Izuku jokes. Yeah, no. Angel? Her? This one is more like. He makes horns with his hands and puts above his head. Hisser? The cat hisses at him. See? She loves hissing. That's horrible. Izuku looks back at her, then he notices her front paws are white, like she's wearing socks or gloves. How about Mittens? Mittens. Dobby snorts. Mittens, destroyer of worlds. The cat perks up and meows excitedly at them. I think she liked it. Dobby says. She closes her eyes, and Frank's phone on the table starts vibrating. Frank picks it up and checks it. A text-to-speech app is downloading, and when it finishes it opens and characters starts appearing. I'm Mittens, destroyer of worlds. The app says. Izuku blinks at her a few times, then smiles and scratches behind her ears. I guess we found her quirk. He says. Technopathy. That's amazing. I know I'm amazing. The app says. But you can say it again. Izuku chuckles and keeps scratching her. We need to talk about money. This is how Frank started the conversation that morning. Izuku was in the kitchen, having breakfast. Ronin is in the living room watching TV. Dobby was trying to see if he could fry bacon on his ribs. And Mittens was somewhere in the house, doing her cat things. Are we having problems? Ronin asks, muting the TV to pay attention. Not quite. Frank replies. Izuku being the only one of us who needs to eat makes things much easier. But still, if this group is going to keep growing, we will have to move. Well, this apartment is for one person, and at the moment, there are 4 living here. Dobby points. I see your point. Ronin nods. But what can we do? Hard to say. My boss is a cheap son of a beach who doesn't want to pay me properly. Frank huffs. I'm the best healer in that DMN clinic, but the BSTRD pays me minimum wage. And he still has the nerve to say, if you don't like it, you can leave in my face. So, we need other options. Ronin says. Anyone has ideas? I might have one. Dobby says. Not sure if it's safe though. Oh, what is it? Frank asks. Just something I heard while on one of my walks at night. Dobby replies. I heard a group talking about some kind of underground guild. People go there to post contracts, and others go there to accept them. Basically, you get paid to fulfill these contracts. So, mercenary work. Ronin asks. Basically. Dobby shrugs. Oh, I heard of this place. Frank says. I healed a group that came from there. They said something about a contract gone wrong. I guess it's the best plan we'll have for now. Ronin says. None of us has an ID to get a legal job, and without knowing who we were before, it'll be quite hard to get one. He looks at Izuku. What do you think? Me. Izuku eyes widen. Why are you asking me? Because you're our leader. Ronin smiles. You're the one who reanimated us. You brought us together. But I'm just. Izuku gestures to himself. Shouldn't you be our leader? Nah, I agree with plain face. Dobby says. You're the one who brought us here, Izuku. I think you'll do a good job leading us. Doesn't mean you're alone, though. Frank adds. We'll be here to help you. Izuku thinks for a few seconds, then nods. In this case, his expression changes to one of determination. Ronin, can you look for clues? Anything that can lead us to this guild. Sure thing, boss. Ronin salutes him. Dobby, if we're going to do this, we need to be prepared. Izuku says, mercenary work is gray area at best, criminal at worst. So I want you and Frank to prepare gear for us. Something that makes it harder to identify us. Medical supplies. Weapons for Ronin. All right, bossman. Dobby says, and Izuku knows he's smirking. Sure thing. Frank smiles. Mittens. Izuku calls, and the cat soon jumps on his lap. Can you search the internet for us? He asks as he pats her head. We need loopholes we can use in case something goes wrong. Mittens meows, and Frank's phone dings. All right, I'll find everything we need. The text-to-speech app says. And I guess we'll need code names. Izuku says as an afterthought. I doubt telling our real names is a good idea. Number 1 rule in the underground, kid. Frank says. Never let anyone know your name. Izuku nods and thinks for a few seconds, then he looks at Dobby and smiles. Arsonist. He says. Dobby asks. You're not wrong about this. But still, Izuku giggles. Do you know tabletop RPGs? Izuku asks and everyone shakes their heads. They were extremely popular in the pre-Quirk era. Nowadays it still has its fan base, but it's quite small. Why pretend to have powers in an era where almost everyone has powers? He explains. Anyway, there are dozens of systems and each system has different classes. I think Arsonist is self-explanatory. Good point. Dobby nods. Okay, I'm in. Great. Izuku smiles and then looks at Frank. Your fixer. This class is primarily a healer. Then he looks at Ronin. Fighter. Basically, a warrior skilled in many weapons. He scratches Mittens behind the ear. Artificer. Engineers and technology wizards. I like it. Ronin says. And what about you? Isn't it obvious? Izuku asks. There's only one class for me. Necromancer. All right. Dobby claps his hands. So everyone has their roles now. Get to work. As they get up to start doing their tasks, Izuku feels a hand on his head. See? I knew you'd do fine. You're a natural leader. Ronin smiles at him. Now, if we're doing this, we'll need to double down on your training. Are you ready? Izuku beams at him and nods. I'm more than ready. He says firmly. I want to be useful. You are Izuku. Ronin replies, ruffling his curls. I still want all the training you can give me. Izuku says. Don't go easy on me. I wouldn't dream of it. Ronin grins. Be ready. I'm just saying dash, Dobby says from the sidelines as Izuku spars with Ronin. The aesthetic is already there. You just need to embrace it. And where dash, Izuku dodges a blow from Ronin's Bakken and tries to counterattack with his staff but is blocked. Am I supposed to find a scythe? Yes. Do you have any idea of how hard it was to even find Ronin's tonfas? Weapons are expensive. Ronin says, hitting a blow at Izuku's side. And you just died again. How many times this makes? Dobby asks. Today? Since I started sparring with Ronin? 428. Izuku replies. Against 2 on my side. Dobby whistles. Man, you don't pull any punches. He says. How can you whistle? Ronin asks. You don't have lips. I stopped questioning. Izuku says. Dobby simply doesn't make any sense. He sits down and sips on a water bottle. And I don't want him to pull any punches, Dobby. I need to be ready. Who knows what will happen to you guys if I die? That's why we are here. Dobby says. We'll protect you, Izuku. And I want to protect you guys too. Izuku replies. So I need to get stronger. All right. Dobby says. In that case, how about another sparring partner? Bring it on, Bones. Izuku says with a grin. Sparring against a long-range fighter is a completely different experience. But Izuku learns quickly. By the end of the day, he even manages to land a blow on Dobby. The proud smile on Ronin's face was the greatest reward of that day. No mask. Izuku says, looking at the costume design Frank showed him. There is an old Yakuza group known for wearing raven masks. We don't want to be associated with them. The design is simple and reminiscent of a plague doctor's uniform. Shoulder cloak. A green hooded robe. Long black gloves. A belt with a pouch. Flexible pants. And long knee-high boots. Izuku also soon realizes that it's quite easy to hide armor under the robe. Alright, should I choose a new mask or… No, let's leave it like this. Izuku replies with a smile. Sometimes hiding in plain sight is the best option. Alright. Frank says, scratching something in his notebook. No masks. Now, onto Dobby's design. The red wire. The one on the right. That's it. Now carefully. No. The text-to-speech app instructs as Izuku tries to follow. But he's just no good with wiring. Sorry, Mittens. I failed again. Izuku says dejectedly while looking at the collar that just shorted out and exploded again. We can try again. The app says. Failures are just stepping stones to success. I love your optimism. Izuku replies, patting Mittens on the head. But we will need new materials. I heard of a beach that has become a garbage dump in recent years. Mittens says. We can probably find some electronics to disassemble there. Izuku chuckles. All right, let me clean up this mess first. I'm covered in soot. He says. What do you think? Dobby shows Izuku his costume. Dobby's costume consists of blue pants, a white t-shirt, a blue torn and patched overcoat with short sleeves, and black boots. On his neck, he has a silver necklace with a turquoise-eyed skull. Looking good. Izuku replies with a smile. Is this fireproof? Nope. Dobby replies. But this will have to do for now. I guess you just need to go easy on the flames. Izuku replies. I never go easy on anything, kid. Dobby says. Well, it won't be my fault if you end up naked again. Izuku shrugs. The idiot thought it was fake. Ronin explains as he unwraps the cloth over the revolver. He sold it to me for just a third of the regular price. Is this a gun? Izuku asks, looking at the long barrel of the revolver, whose lower part looks like a knife. A gun blade. Do you have any idea of how hard it is to find one in Japan? Ronin asks. Very. Ronin confirms. Most are held by weapon collectors, and they just won't part with their collections. He swings it a few times to test the weight. Imbeciles. What use is a weapon if you won't use it? I guess not everyone thinks like you. Izuku shrugs. Well, I know I'll make good use of this baby. Ronin replies. Want to spar? Izuku suggests. Sure. Ronin smiles. If you land a hit on me this time, we'll buy ice cream on the way back. Deal. Izuku nods, grabbing his staff. Is the lab coat really necessary? Izuku asks as Frank shows his costume. Of course it is. Frank replies. To be a doctor, I have to look like a doctor. Frank's costume includes a dark green sweatshirt, black pants, long leather boots, a bag tied to a belt, and a lab coat. His belt buckle is shaped like a skull, and a gun holster is attached to his right leg. But you're not a doctor? Details. Frank waves him off. So what are we missing? Izuku asks. Ronin's costume will be ready in 2 more days. And whatever Mittens are having you work on. Frank counts. After that, we just need to be ready for when he finds the guild. In that case, we better not slack off now. Izuku says. By the way, how did you get a gun? Someone tried to mug me last week. Frank shrugs. As it turns out, being shot is a lot less dangerous when you are an undead. You're impossible. Izuku shakes his head and starts leaving. At least tell me you took the bullet off before healing. Who do you think I am? Frank replies indignantly. Of course I forgot. How the hell did it take 24 years for you to die? I ask the same question almost daily, Aizu. It works. An excited female voice comes from the collar on Mittens' neck. See? I knew you could do it, Aizu. It only took 35 prototypes and 46 explosions to get one that works. Izuku replies. 36 is my lucky number. Mittens replies. And now that this is ready, we can go to the next project. And what would it be? Izuku raises an eyebrow. Comms, of course. Mittens replies. I just need to set up a secure reception network that only our comms can pick up. And what do you need me to do? Izuku asks. For now, I need you to pick up the package I ordered, and it should be here soon. Now. On cue, a call comes from the door. DLVRY for Mr. Midoriya Izuku? How do you do that? Izuku asks. Trade secret. Mittens replies. Now move on, I'll start setting the network, but I'll need your hands. Sure. Izuku goes to the door. Too bad we don't have some kind of mechanical hand that you can control. He misses the inspired expression on Mittens' face when she hears this. The night was calm. The group was at home doing their own thing when the door opens, and Ronin enters with Mittens hanging from his shoulder. She gets down and jumps onto Izuku's lap. He is wearing his costume, consisting of a dark gray jumpsuit, gloves up to the elbows, and combat boots. On his belt is a pair of metal tunfas and his holstered revolver on his thigh. I have the address, he says as he enters. The guild sits under an abandoned bar on the outskirts of Mustafu. To get in, we need a password. And how do we get this password? Dobby asks. I'm already 2 steps ahead of you. Mittens says, closing her eyes. The TV changes to an image of a camera moving around inside a bar falling to pieces. 2 armed men walk up to a back door and knock 3 times. A piece of paper slides under the door. One of the men looks at the paper and then knocks 5 times on the door. Then the door opens. The man throws the paper over his shoulder and enters. A few seconds later, the camera approaches the discarded paper. On it is a numerical sequence. 8981. Then the video cuts and another person is shown. The same thing happens after knocking 3 times on the door. This one also gets a piece of paper and knocks 4 times. The number on her paper was 2 other people appear but enter without leaving the paper behind. Another receives the number 6043 and knocks twice. 6317, 1 knock. 8932, 3 hits. The video then ends. What the hell? Frank says. Is there any logic in this? Of course it has. Ronin replies. It's not that hard. Oh, I get it. Izuku says. It's the dash. Mittens puts a paw on his mouth to stop him. To let them figure it out. She says. Oh, come on. Dobby complains. Puzzles are not my thing. It takes Dobby about 2 hours to solve the puzzle, while Frank gives up after the first hour. In the end, Izuku tells the solution. The next day at night, the group heads to the abandoned bar. Ronin goes to the door and knocks 3 times, and as in the video, a piece of paper is slid under the door. He shows the paper to Izuku. On it are the numbers. Izuku nods to Ronin, then knocks 5 times on the door. The door then opens, and on the other side is a tall, hairy man with thick arms. A quick glance is enough for Izuku to identify that this is a gorilla mutation. He wonders how strong this man is. First time? The man asks and continues before they can reply. Follow the staircase and enter the door at the end of the hall. Fighting is forbidden. If you have something to settle with someone, take it outside. The master, you'll know who he is, will explain the rest. Izuku thanks the bouncer and follows the staircase. At the end of the corridor was a large red door with a silver star-shaped emblem. Below it were the words, Silver Star Guild. Ready? Izuku asks and feels a comforting hand on his shoulder. He doesn't need to look to know it's Ronin. Or Fighter. He can't risk using real names here. Let's go. Fighter says. Izuku adjusts the hood on his head, then opens the door. Walking through the door, Izuku finds himself in a large hall filled with round wooden tables with mugs. At several of them, groups of people were chatting. On one wall is a large bulletin board full of hanging papers. And a little further ahead is a counter where a woman dressed as a receptionist is talking to another group. The place seems to have been stylized to look like a fantasy guild. Probably the cover is that this place is simply for playing RPGs. As Izuku and his group walk in, he can feel all the eyes on them. Welcome to the Silver Star Guild. Someone calls and Izuku turns, seeing a tall man. I'm the Guildmaster, but you can call me Star. He has a wrinkled face, with short, neat gray hair and a short beard, and is wearing a formal suit. But his most striking feature is his silver eyes, or more specifically, the right eye behind a monocle, which is shaped like a star and seems to glow. You can call me Necromancer. Izuku greets. These are Fighter, Arsonist, Fixer, and Artificer. The man raises an eyebrow at the cat. Don't underestimate her. She is far from being the strangest thing I have ever seen here. Guildmaster Star chuckles, eyes briefly going to the skeleton. Anyway, you're here. What are you looking for? Izuku raises an eyebrow. No one gets here by coincidence. The door dash, he points to the entrance, is a test. The people you saw entering are a hint since getting here is the first step. So, you're saying that we played exactly as you expected? Fighter comments. Pretty much. The Guildmaster shrugs. If you're accepted, you'll get the location of the real entrance. But as I said, I need to know what you want here. He opens his arm, gesturing to all the people. The Silver Star Guild is the #1 underground union. We deal with information, contracts, support gear, etc. Villains, heroes, civilians, vigilantes, mercenaries. We welcome anyone, no questions asked. He smiles at Izuku. An unsettling smile that doesn't reach his eyes. As long as you follow the rules, that is. The veiled threat is evident to everyone. Fair enough. Izuku says. Well, we are here for contracts. We need money, and except for me, technically none of us exist. The man raises an eyebrow and closes his left eye. His right eye, the star-shaped one, starts glowing as he looks at Izuku, then he looks at the others. Oh, I see. He says. You have quite the quirk, little boy. What did you do? Izuku asks, narrowing his eyes. That's my quirk. The Guildmaster replies. I call it appraisal. My right eye can appraise anything. With this I can know exactly what the value of a product is. I can also use it on people. He smirks. By doing this I can see information about a person's physical strength, intelligence, agility, and charisma. I also see details about the person's quirk. I never thought I'd see dead people walking and talking. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to keep my quirk a secret. Izuku replies, narrowing his eyes. Don't worry, that young mind of yours. The Guildmaster replies. All the information I gather with my quirk stays only with me. He smiles genuinely this time. Now, if you could follow me, I'll explain how things work here. Izuku and his zombie troop follow the Guildmaster into another room. Everyone sits down, and a woman starts serving tea. Izuku and Star accept, and the others deny. Before he drinks, however, Fixer takes a sip and nods. Paranoid are we? Guildmaster Star comments. That's not a bad trait to have. Can we get to the point? Fighter says, annoyed. As you wish. Guildmaster Star replies. The guild has quite simple rules. We are a neutral zone, so it doesn't matter if you see a mercenary, hero, villain, vigilant. Fighting is banned. Quirk usage inside the guild is allowed, but any damage you may cause you must pay for. You can use this place as neutral ground for negotiations, as long as you inform me first. These are the basic rules. Izuku takes a sip of his tea. He looks at Star and raises an eyebrow. Basic rules, which means there are others, right? Izuku asks. Good to know you are observing. Star smirks. You want to be a mercenary. It's quite simple, you can accept any contract that you may find in the bulletin board, but they don't pay that well. He explains. What you're really interested on are the private contracts. But for that, you need to make a name for yourself. So, as we accept contracts and successfully complete them, we become better known, and thus people may be interested in hiring us personally? Izuku summarizes. Exactly. Of course, there's a bit more to it. Star chuckles. As I said, I can measure an individual's strength with relative accuracy. I can tell that your group will go far. Of course, it is impossible to know how exactly their undead state affects my appraisal, but that's beyond the point. I can pull some strings to help you make a name for yourself, but you need to be able to keep up. And how does this benefit you? Arsonist asks, raising an inexistent. Bro. Simple. Per guild rules, we get a share equal to 20% of the reward from the contracts. Star smiles at them. So the more you profit, the more we profit as a result. Having successful mercenaries also increases our prestige. Which brings us to the second rule. Some fools end up biting off more than they can chew. To avoid this, we have a rule for broken contracts. If your group fails to complete a contract, you will have to pay a fine equal to 70% of the contract value. With these rules, you ensure that the guild will profit regardless of whether your mercenaries succeed or fail. Fighter comments with a nod. And you make sure that the mercenaries don't take jobs that they can't complete, because besides the risk to their own lives, they could end up in debt. So, it's quite the risk to take. Fixer says. But the payment is on par with the risk. Being overconfident is a problem. Artificer says from her place on Izuku's lap. And what happens if someone can't pay the fine? If someone does not pay the fine within 2 months, they are banned from all establishments related to the Silver Star Union until the debt is paid. Which, in the underground, is almost a death sentence. Those who frequent the guild are primarily informants, mercenaries, vigilantes, and underground heroes. The guild is an asset they cannot afford to lose. And what about the law? Izuku asks. I imagine you deal with many things in the gray area. The guild will offer you protection for many types of jobs. Star replies. If you're arrested while doing a contract, we can bail you out, but be warned that in doing so, we'll consider the contract as failed, and you'll have to pay the fine. He taps his finger on his chin a few times, then adds. Of course, we can't help with everything. Like, let's say you're caught while trying to invade the HPSC, or the contract was to assassinate a hero. In these cases, you're on your own. I see. Izuku nods. Is that everything we need to know? Pretty much. Star shrugs. You will need to complete your first contract before you can be accepted into the guild. For newbies, we have 3 contracts available. He puts 3 paper sheets on the table in front of him. The first is asking to recover a stolen diamond. The second is an assassination contract. The third is a kidnapping. Izuku raises an eyebrow and points to the first paper. This contract is very simple. The client was trying to sell a rare diamond to a collector, but he was cheated. Star explains. The contract is to get the diamond back from the collector. As a bonus, they will pay you extra if you destroy the collection. They don't care if you destroy or steal the items. And you can keep anything that is not the diamond. Izuku then points to the second paper. This young man has upset the wrong person. Star says. The methods are irrelevant, but the client will pay a bonus if you bring the head as a trophy. Izuku suppresses a wince and points to the third one. This is probably the easiest one. Star shrugs. Someone owes him a large sum, and the client wants you to kidnap his son. Izuku nods and thinks for a moment. All 3 missions are clearly criminal. Not that he expected anything different. No one would go to an underground guild to hire someone to clean their garage. Izuku knows he will have to make some morally questionable choices, but still. We'll take the first one. Izuku definitely doesn't want to kidnap an innocent person, and as for killing, maybe one day, but not yet. Perfect. Star claps his hands. Andromeda, give them the details please. He says to his secretary, who nods. Well, I'm rooting for you, kid. He dramatically points upwards. I'm sure you'll shoot for the skies. It's the next night that Izuku and his squad meet in front of the address. An old house that, although large, seems abandoned. The collector keeps all his items hidden here, and he thinks no one knows the location. An arrogant fool. The security system is laughably bad. Artificer can disable everything in a few moments. Fighter easily breaks down the front door, and the group scatters to search for the diamond. The various rooms of the house are set up as a museum exhibit. Izuku finds works of art, sculptures, weapons, and more. Surely this person took years to put all these things together. Then he finds a room full of jewelry. Necromancer here. I think I found it. Izuku says, reaching for his communicator. Second floor, right wing, third door. There's a lot of jewelry here. Fighter here. Fighter answers. Me and Artificer are in a room with electronic devices. We are looking for anything Artificer can use. Arsonist here. Arsonist says next. I'm in the weapons room, there are some interesting things here. Fixer here. Fixer is the next. Unless someone wants to wear a medieval helmet, there's nothing useful here. We can't carry too much. Fighter says while Izuku searches the room. Keep light. Yeah, I know. Fixer replies. I'm going to help Necromancer. Fixer out. Izuku searches the room and finds many expensive-looking things he wonders if they could sell through the guild. Fixer gets there a few minutes later and starts picking some things up. It takes some rummaging, but he finally finds the diamond, hidden in a display dubbed the European Jewels. I got the diamond. Izuku says, picking the 3 jewels. Understood. I got everything I need too. Fighter says. Me too. Arsonist adds. Let's meet at the entrance. Izuku says. Then Arsonist can do his thing. My favorite part. Arsonist adds, and Izuku can feel a grin in his voice. Izuku shakes his head and goes with Fixer to the entrance of the house. When he arrives, Fighter and Artificer are already there, holding bags where Izuku imagines whatever they took from the collection is. A few seconds later, Arsonist arrives, and Izuku only needs to look at him to start shaking his head. You didn't. He says, observing what Arsonist has in hand. Oh, I totally did. What is your excuse now? Arsonist replies as he gives Izuku the fidget scythe he brought. You're awful. Izuku says, but he can't hide his smile. What can I say, it's destiny. Arsonist replies with a shrug. Yeah. Izuku says. Anyway, there's only one thing left to do. Ready? Always. Arsonist says and turns to the room. Arson time. Izuku and the others leave the house just as Arsonist raises his arms and lets his fire flow. Within moments the flames spread through the wooden house, consuming everything in their path. I should have brought s'mores. Izuku mutters as they leave. Arsonist leaves the house a few seconds later, and as they leave, Izuku drops a small card for the collector to find. After all, the client wanted them to know who destroyed the collection. After that, they return to the guild, carrying the diamond and a photo of the house in flames as proof of what they did. Guildmaster Star grins when he sees it. Congratulations on your first successful contract. Necromancer. He says and gives a small card to Izuku. Welcome to Silver Star Guild. The card is silver with a star in the corner. It has the name Necromancer printed on it. Izuku raises an eyebrow. I never erred in my judgment. I knew you would make it, so I had your card made as soon as you left yesterday. Well, Guildmaster Star. Good to work with you. Izuku says, extending his hand. Likewise, kid. Star shakes his hand. Take good care of this card. This is your key to any and all guild facilities that you might want to use. You can talk to the receptionist to receive your reward. He gives Izuku a visit card. You can open an untraceable account at this bank. No ID is required. After all, most users are morally gray the best and villains the worst. Having concluded the conversation, Izuku leaves with his group, feeling quite satisfied with the work he has just done. He is even happier when later that day, Ronin takes him out for ice cream to celebrate. He may be a mature child, but he is still a child. The Silver Star Guild is probably the most important place in the entire underground. Finding this place is laughably easy, even though it is technically illegal. After all, they don't need to hide. The only ones who are generally unaware of the existence of this place, or are stupid enough to try to act against it, are young limelights who think they are invincible, but they soon learn their lesson. Hero, villain, vigilante, mercenary. Here labels don't matter as long as you follow the rules. How are the rules emphasized? Simple by fear. The Silver Star Guild is supported by all major crime lords as well as the government of Japan itself, although this fact is unknown to most people. The point is the Silver Star Guild is indispensable for anyone involved in the underground. Of course, everyone who is part of the guild is, at the very least, morally gray. Aizawa Shoyuda, also known as Eraserhead, is no exception. He usually comes to the guild to contact informants, in search of information about his missions or sometimes about new vigilantes in his area. But this time, he is here for another reason. A new mercenary he has heard about recently. Now, usually Eraserhead doesn't care about mercenaries, but he has heard some disheartening things and wants to know the truth. Specifically, that this new mercenary is the youngest person to ever join the guild. Necromancer? His informant asks from the other side of the desk. Why do you want to know about him? Is it important? Eraserhead asks back. Well, generally I would say no. After all, as long as I get paid I don't care. The informant replies. But Guildmaster Star is very fond of the boy. I don't want to cross him, you know. I never thought I would see the day when Star would get fond of someone. Eraserhead says. Don't worry, I don't want his harm. The informant looks at him for a few seconds, then shrugs. A bottle of vodka. The informant says. That's quite cheap. Eraserhead replies. Yeah, it's not like I have much about him. Anything I'm about to say, you would know if you frequented the place a bit more. The informant replies as Eraserhead calls the barman and asks for a bottle of vodka. The kid dash, wait kid? Is good. I have to say, only Guildmaster Star knows his quirk. But he has a group. Another kid who looks like a skeleton. Some guy with white hair who dresses like a doctor. A tall guy who carries a gun with him. And a purple cat. I don't know any of their quirks, but the interesting thing is that they made clear that the kid is the leader. Kid? Eraserhead asks. How old is he? Don't know, but he looks quite young. He can't be older than 8. The informant replies. He's quite adorable. Baby face, freckles, green hair. Right after his first contract, he came back carrying a scythe. Wait, he succeeded. Everybody knows that the first contract that Star gives to every new mercenary is made to be failed. Caught everyone by surprise. The informant replies. I mean, the first contract is doable. What Star tends to do is choose a contract to humble the more arrogant newcomers, which is the majority of the mercenaries that pass through that door. But still, I was quite impressed. So, let me get this straight. Eraserhead starts. The new mercenary of the guild is a child, probably less than 8 years old. The leader of a team with another child, 2 adults and a cat. And he passed Guildmaster Star's test on his first try. Yup. The informant replies. If I hadn't seen it all with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. But well, ask anyone you like. Everyone here will tell you the same thing. No, I believe you. Eraserhead replies. You are one of the best informants here after all. Good to know. The informant replies. Well, he comes to pick up jobs on random days, but eventually you should cross paths with him. Eraser nods and leaves the guild. He may look calm, but the truth is that he is freaking out inside. Not only is a child involved with the underground, but he is also a mercenary. Eraserhead can't help but be worried. Dash, straight face. Bakugo Mitsuki is an abrasive woman. She gets angry easily, swears frequently, and to many people, she is an unpleasant woman. But as much as her way of showing it is different from most, she cares for her family and friends. That's why when Katsuki comes home one day saying that Izuku hasn't shown up at school for months, she gets worried. It's not the first time Katsuki tells her that Izuku wasn't at school, but every time she asks Inko about it, she says everything is fine, and Izuku isn't feeling well. Although they have no blood ties, Mitsuki sees Izuku as her nephew. This past year, he has visited her less and less, but whenever she asks, Inko says everything is fine. But knowing that he didn't go to school for months? Just yesterday, she asked Inko, and she said he was fine. Mitsuki marches to Inko's house. No more excuses. She's going to find out what's going on today. She knocks on the door, and a few seconds later, Hisashi opens the door. Inko isn't home. He says and starts closing the door, but Mitsuki isn't having it. She kicks the door and enters. Where's Izuku? She asks curtly. Inko said he's fine, but Katsuki said he wasn't at school for months. Michan. Inko appears in the living room. What are you? She isn't home, right? Mitsuki sneers at Hisashi, then turns to Inko. Where's Izuku, Inko? Katsuki said that he hasn't shown up at school for months. You said just yesterday that he's fine. Michan. Look dash, Inko starts. I got rid of him. Hisashi says. That little bstrd isn't my son. So, I got rid of him. What do you mean? Mitsuki asks, then looks at Inko. Wait, his quirk. Inko is Izuku. Yes, Inko admits. I tried to keep him. Hisashi says. But I couldn't. Looking at him just made me remember that my own wife cheated on me. I was so angry. No matter what I did to him, the anger didn't stop. You abused him, Mitsuki says, horrified. Where is he now? I don't know. Hisashi shrugs. I dropped him into a forest a few months ago. Michan. Inko tries to approach, but Mitsuki punches her in the face. You bstrd. You let your husband abuse your son. You let him be abandoned and all of that. Because you couldn't keep your pants? She screams at Inko. You chose this son of a beach. She points to Hisashi. Over your wonderful son? Michan. You don't understand. He wasn't supposed to be. Shut up, Midoriya. Mitsuki cuts her. Don't call me Michan, and never come near my family again. She turns to leave but shoots a last glare at Hisashi. And you better pray that I can find little Aizu. Then she leaves. But of course, it doesn't matter if she meets Izuku or not. She will make it a point to report these BSTRDS for abandonment and abuse. Nobody touches her nephew and gets away with it. She immediately goes to the police to report Izuku as missing. She demands that they find him, but the police say that since it has been over a month, it may be impossible. Mitsuki has to hold back from attacking someone right there. Being arrested for attacking a policeman will not help Izuku. That night, she tells Masaru and Katsuki what happened. She definitely did not expect Katsuki's reaction to the news. Mitsuki has seen Katsuki cry very few times, but upon hearing that Izuku was abandoned in a forest by his parents, he begins to cry. That night, he confesses to Mitsuki what happened at school and how, although he never participated in the bullying, he also abandoned Izuku. He promises that the day they find Izuku, he will apologize. The next day, Mitsuki takes Katsuki out of Aldra. A school like that will only hurt him. For a few months, he studies online until they find another school for him. And they make a point of checking out everything about this one. As for Izuku, the police can't find him, and after a few weeks, they declare him dead. Mitsuki doesn't believe this for a single second. If the police won't do anything, she will. She spreads missing person posters all over Mustafu and hires a private detective to search. But to her despair, there is not a single clue about Izuku. It is impossible to know if he is alive. But she clings to hope. After all, there is no proof that he is dead either. Straight face. Izuku, in blissful ignorance of the great distress he's causing to an underground hero and the woman he called his aunt, is skipping toward the ice cream parlor. Beside him is Ronin with Mittens resting on his shoulder, and a few steps behind are Frank and Dobby, as usual, bickering about something. I went into the shop one day to get an ice cream treat. He sings as he skips. 'Cause ice cream is my favorite thing to eat. Mittens joins in the singing, meowing instead of using her translator. So many different kinds to try. So many kinds to see. And when it was my turn to say how many scoops to me, I said one scoop for me please. One scoop for me. As impressive as your lungs are, Izuku, this is the 5th time you have repeated the same song. Ronin says. Can't you please stop it? What, you can't handle a little singing? Dobby asks, looking at Frank and smirking. I mean, Dobby starts. No. Ronin points at him. We ain't. Frank continues. Don't you dare. Ronin says threateningly. Into the shop one day to get an ice cream treat. They sing together. 'Cause ice cream is my favorite thing to eat. Is this my life now? Ronin grumbles, making Izuku giggle. Come on Ronin, you're smiling. Izuku points. I am and I hate it. Ronin replies. We're here. Izuku says, pointing ahead. Ice cream. Ice cream. He chants as he skips ahead. Ronin just shakes his head and follows behind, pointedly ignoring Dobby and Frank, who are still singing the DMN ice cream song. That afternoon, Izuku gets 3 scoops of vanilla, strawberry, and chocolate. Ronin gets a scoop of mint. What a dull guy. Frank takes 2 scoops of curry-flavored ice cream. Coming from him, this shouldn't be a surprise. And Dobby doesn't take anything. He can't eat, and a few weeks ago, he revealed that he doesn't even feel the urge to eat, so it's not a problem for him anyway. As the strange family sits down to eat, some people look at them in surprise. Or rather, they look at Dobby, who ignores the stares like he doesn't even notice them. A quick glare from Ronin is enough to make most people stop. But some are braver. A girl with pink skin approaches them. She seems to be about Izuku's age. Excuse me. Can I take a photo with you? She asks Dobby, who raises an inexistent eyebrow and chuckles. Sure, why not? He says as the girl's mom picks her phone to take the photo. They take the picture, with Dobby giving the girl a pair of horns, and then she thanks him and goes back to her table to finish her ice cream. Well, looks who's popular with kids. Frank teases. It's not every day that you see in Skeleton. Dobby replies. Even in a quirked society. Let's be fair, we are probably the weirdest group in the world. Ronin replies. I mean, we are 2 zombies, a cat zombie, an skeleton, and a necromancer. Izuku giggles, putting down his spoon. That's fair. He says. Though it's not like anyone can tell that you guys aren't alive. What would they do anyway? Call the super gravekeeper man to arrest us. Dobby mocks. I'm sure most people would consider necromancy something immoral. Izuku points. I mean, there was a reason why everyone called me a villain at school. Kids are BSters and I want to fight them. Dobby replies. Please don't. Ronin says. They deserve it. Dobby points. And I'm not arguing about this. Ronin replies. I just don't want to have to bail you out of prison because you decided to murder some elementary schoolers. I'll try to rein my fury. Dobby says. But I make no promises. Meanwhile, Izuku just giggles at the interaction, not realizing that Dobby is being completely serious about being willing to kill someone for Izuku. It was a simple mission. Break into a villain's secret base and recover some incriminating files for the client. To reduce the chances of being caught, only Izuku and Fighter entered. Arsonist, Fixer, and Artificer are outside, ready to act if necessary. It was supposed to be a quick job. Go in, retrieve the files, and leave. And they did find the files quickly. But the situation changed when Izuku found something displayed like a trophy. A preserved body. Some villains do this. Expose the head or body of their enemies as a trophy, both for status and for intimidation. But Izuku recognizes this body. Tall, muscular, and rock-hard spiky crimson hair. Although his eyes are closed, Izuku knows they are as red as his hair. This man disappeared a few years ago, and many have theorized what happened to him. It seems that Izuku has found out. Chivalrous hero, Crimson Riot. Fighter. Izuku calls. Can you break this glass? We are taking him with us. Fighter doesn't even look surprised. He just nods and hits the glass with his tonfa. Hey, bossman. Arsonist calls over the comms. Artificer asked to warn you to hurry. She can only hold the alarm for 5 more minutes. It should be enough time. Izuku replies. But just in case, prepare for distraction. All right. Let's go, Fighter. Izuku says as Fighter secures the body on his back. I can reanimate him later. It'll take too long to explain things now. They go back the same way they came. The advantage of being so short is that Izuku can go through small passages and open way for Fighter. This is even more useful considering that Fighter has to carry a nearly 7-foot-tall man. It's close. A few seconds after they manage to get out, several alarms start to sound. They have managed to get out of the base, but they are not out of the woods yet. Arsonist. Izuku says in his comms. Diversion. Right on Basu. Arsonist replies. It doesn't take long for a cloud of smoke to start rising, followed by explosions. Chaos is instantaneous, with security guards running around, not knowing what to do. Which gives Izuku and Fighter the perfect chance to escape. Everyone fall back. Izuku gives the order. Go through different routes. We'll meet at the guild in 1 hour. Roger. Everyone replies. Then Izuku looks at Fighter and makes a signal, pointing upwards. Fighter nods and climbs up a building. Up there, they won't need to worry about being seen. Lie him down. Izuku says and Fighter obeys. He quickly scans the body. Mummified. I would say he died a year or 2 ago. Taking off his gloves, Izuku quickly reaches into his bag for a glass of antiseptic. He applies it to his wrist and then to his knife for good measure. Placing his wrist above the dried body, Izuku makes a cut and lets his blood flow. The mummified body begins to recover. The muscles fill up and the skin is rehydrated. As with the other zombies, the color doesn't return to him, but he only looks like a very pale man, rather than a literal corpse. All right. Fighter says. I think it's enough. Let's stop the bleeding. Izuku nods and gives Fighter his arm, applying pressure a little above the wound to slow the bleeding. Fighter dresses the wound tightly in bandages. They are about to sit down to wait for the man to wake up when someone steps onto the same rooftop as them. Both Izuku and Fighter take a fighting stance as they see a tall man wearing black clothes and a gray scarf. The man looks from Izuku to Fighter, then the body on the floor. Izuku can't recognize him. He checks on what new heroes have debuted weekly, so this man is either a new hero, a vigilante, or an underground. He seems too experienced to be a new hero, and his gear isn't makeshift, so Izuku is betting on the third option. Immediately he adopts a fighting stance, which fair. His timing was honestly horrible. So he just hops onto a rooftop and sees 2 armed guys standing above an apparently bloodied body. And judging by the way he looked at the body, he recognized who it is. Izuku tries to think of something to say, but the hero's hair begins to float away along with his scarf, and before Izuku can react, he is caught and dragged close to the man. Their eyes cross, and Izuku sees the exact moment when the hero realizes that Izuku isn't just a short guy. A kid? Wadash. Then suddenly, Fighter is right next to him, with his gun drawn and touching the hero's head. Let him go. Fighter growls. Now. Fighter. Izuku calls, and somehow, the hero's eyes widen even more when he hears his voice. Put down your gun. Is Necromancer. Fighter grits his teeth. It's okay. He won't hurt me. Izuku says, then looks back at the hero. I know it sounds bad, but we didn't kill anyone. You still have a dead pro hero that has been missing for years. The hero says. And gun pointed to my head. We found him, but he was already dead. Izuku replies. But not for long. On cue, Crimson Riot starts moving and sits down, gasping for air. Which is more of a reflex reaction. Frank already tested, and the zombies don't really need to breathe. They can, but it's not necessary. What? He looks back at Izuku, who smiles innocently at him. Yes, he was dead. Izuku says. Technically he still is. The man frowns for a few seconds. Necromancer is not just a random name. He looks at Fighter. Is he dead too? I'm the only one alive. Izuku replies, then looks at Fighter again. Fighter. Fighter frowns but lowers his gun. Then the man releases Izuku from the scarf. That's really cool. Is that your quirk? Izuku asks. Some kind of telekinesis? You use it to control the scarf. My capture weapon dash, the man emphasizes, isn't part of my quirk. And I don't know why my hair floats. It just does. Then he narrows his eyes. Tell me, why shouldn't I just arrest you right here? Well, I'm assuming you're an underground hero, right? Izuku replies. Then you know about the guild. I didn't do anything too bad, so the guild will back me up. You can arrest me, but I'll be free in 2 days maximum. Even less, considering I'm literally a kid. Then he smirks. And do you really want to cross Guildmaster star? Kinda. Likes me, you know. You're, unfortunately, right? The hero sighs. So, you know who we are. Izuku says. Can we have a name too? Eraserhead. The hero replies curtly. Why is a kid playing mercenary? Okay, what in the world is happening here? They look to the side and see a really confused Crimson Riot looking at them. Sorry, mister. Izuku smiles at him. It's a long story, but to summarize, you're dead, and I brought you back. Brought me back? The man asks. What? Am I a zombie now? He laughs at his joke but stops when he realizes no one is laughing. Am I a zombie? Izuku taps on his chest, and taking the clue, the man puts a hand over his own chest. His eyes widen when he doesn't feel a heartbeat, so he goes to his wrist, trying to feel a pulse. You are a zombie. Izuku replies. Sorry for reanimating you without your permission, but I can't really ask before. I can send you back if you want, but first, what do you remember? Do you know your name? My name. He frowns, putting a hand on his chin. No, I can't remember. Age? Fighter asks. 38, he replies. Quirk? Izuku asks. Tough as nails. He replies. It's a hardening quirk. He demonstrates it by hardening his fists, the area darkening slightly and gaining a stone-like aspect. Do you know how you died? Fighter asks. Not really. The man replies. I think I remember a fight but not much else. You were a hero, mister. Izuku explains. Crimson Riot, you disappeared 2 years ago, and I found your body. Actually, he turns back to Eraserhead. Do you know his name? You recognized him, right? I don't know. Eraserhead says. I knew him only as Crimson Riot, his civilian name was a secret. Oh great. Another nameless one for the group. Fighter says. Who said he's joining us? Izuku asks. Shouldn't it be his decision? Yeah, right. Fighter replies, raising an eyebrow. Hey, Red, wanna come with us? Sure, why not? Crimson Riot shrugs. Just like that. Izuku and Eraserhead ask at the same time. Not like I have much else to do. Crimson Riot replies. As you said, I've been dead for at least 2 years, and I don't know if I have a family. If I have, they have already moved on. Coming back when I can't even remember them would be just cruel. Also, I feel kinda attached to the kid already. Honestly, I'm starting to think it's part of my quirk. Izuku replies. You don't know how your quirk works? Eraserhead asks. Eraserhead, I'm a 7-year-old kid, and my guardian is a zombie. He points at Fighter. My quirk is necromancy. Not exactly the most accepted quirk in society. I'm the child of an affair from my neglectful mother, and my abusive stepfather, I guess, abandoned me in a forest. Do you think I've ever stepped foot in a quirk's counseling room? Eraserhead looks at him in a mix of surprise and worry. Izuku is not used to seeing this from any adult in his life. I assume I can't convince you to let me help? He asks a few seconds later. Sorry, Eraserhead. I have no reason to trust you. Izuku replies. Figured. Eraserhead sighs. Alright, in this case. He pulls a card from his pocket and gives it to Izuku. I can work on that. This is my number. If you need help, you can call me. Well, Izuku says. There might be something. I'm the only one who needs to eat, and none of us really can cook. I'm not good at cooking either. Eraserhead replies, then reaches into his scarf. He grabs something that looks a bit like a blood bag. He throws it to Izuku, who looks at it with suspicion. This is a jelly pouch. It's a good nutritive value. Izuku reads the label and finds that it's strawberry flavored. He opens it carefully and sniffs it, then Fighter takes it and tastes it. He waits a few seconds, then gives it back to Izuku with a nod. Eraserhead observes the interaction carefully but doesn't comment. Izuku hesitantly brings the pouch to his mouth, then his eyes widen when the jelly touches his tongue. This is delicious. It barely takes 10 seconds for Izuku to completely drain it. He looks back at Shoyuta. Where do you buy that? This brand is only sold in hero-exclusive stores. Shoyuta replies. But I can buy it for you. Please. I'll pay for it. Izuku says eagerly. You can't live only on these, Necromancer. Fighter says. Actually he can. Eraserhead points. 3 of those have the same nutritional value as a full meal. They are made for heroes. And enough chemicals to give someone cancer before their 20s. Fighter counters as he reads the label. I've been drinking those my whole life, and I'm just fine. Eraserhead shrugs. Anyway, other than that, there's the Silver Star restaurants. Yes, they are part of the guild. They are open 24/7 for guild members, and members have discounts. What else the guild owns? Fighter asks. Eraserhead looks at him, raising an eyebrow. Anything. He answers. The Silver Star Union is the most powerful network in the underground. They own restaurants, bars, hotels, guilds, clinics, auction houses, billiards, black markets, and just about anything else you can imagine. They are supported by all the crime lords of Japan. Crossing the Union is the same as declaring war against the entire underground. Hearing this, Izuku let out a whistle. I knew that old man was powerful, but not that much. He's a great ally to have. He won't ever push your boundaries, so as long as you stay on his good side, you have nothing to worry about. Eraserhead explains. Well, good thing we don't intend to be his enemy, then, Izuku replies, then he looks at his clock. It's about time to meet the others. He says, looking at Fighter. Then we should go. Fighter says, turning to Crimson Riot, who has been quiet for the last few minutes, just watching the interaction. But what do we do about him? Crimson Riot disappeared about 2 years ago, but he is still famous enough to be easily recognized. That's actually a good point. Izuku replies thoughtfully. He always wore a face mask. So probably with a change in hairstyle, most people won't recognize him out of costume. Well, that's no problem. Crimson Riot says, and his hair starts moving. My quirk works best at the edges, which means that I can harden my hands, feet, and hair a lot more. An interesting side effect is that I can literally manipulate my hair. Not the size, but I don't need a comb or gel to change it. In a few seconds, his hair goes from looking like a mixture of horns and the Nike symbol to a more common spiky hairstyle that you would see in everyday life. Well, actually, spiky hair is not exactly the most common haircut in Japan, but still, especially with so many quirks, people rarely pay attention to their hair. Izuku would know. Despite his curly green hair that frankly makes him look like a broccoli, he's still regarded as plain-looking by most people he meets. Well, that's certainly handy. Izuku replies. So, just take off the face mask and the cape and it must be enough. Also, we don't know your true name, but we shouldn't use it anyway. He thinks for a few seconds. Well, for now, I think Barbarian will be a good code name for you. Barbarian? That's a manly name. I like it. Barbarian replies, bumping his fists together and grinning. Seeing the interaction, Eraserhead sighs and turns to leave. I'll try to see if I can learn what your name was. He says. And I'll bring some more jelly pouches next time. Just be safe, kid. I don't want to have to bury you anytime soon. If someone ever tries to touch him. Fighter pulls back his gun and starts twirling it in his fingers. They'd better be bulletproof. Eraserhead simply nods and leaves. You know, our first run-in with a hero didn't go too bad. Izuku says. We are lucky he's underground. Fighter replies. Limelights are much more stupid. He looks at Crimson Riot. No offense. I try to deny. But I have no memories of other limelights. Crimson Riot replies. Yet I somehow feel that you're right. Well, we're lucky. Now, let's go find the others before Frank and Dobby start a fire. Oh, right. Izuku says, then looks back at Crimson Riot after ensuring they are alone. I'm Midoriya Izuku, and he's Ronin. There are 3 others in our group, Dobby, Frank, and Mittens. You'll meet them soon. Eraserhead said he'll try to find what your name was, but I think you should start thinking of a new name soon. Ronin says. We all choose our new names. Well, I'll have to think for a while. He says, then looks down at his bare chest. Maybe I could make a tattoo too. Well, you're not a hero anymore, so you don't need to worry too much about being kid-friendly. Sweet. Crimson Riot smiles. I'm going to make a really manly tattoo. It doesn't take long for them to get to the guild and meet the rest of the group. Much to Ronin's despair, Crimson Riot, Dobby, and Frank immediately get along like a house on fire. Izuku can't help but laugh. Izuku opens the door to the Guildmaster's office, finding, as usual, Guildmaster Star in front of his desk, looking out the large window with his hands behind his back. Izuku has opened the door to this scene so many times that he has begun to wonder if the view from this window is that good or if Star is just a dramatic old man. But it doesn't matter. Today Izuku is here because Star asked to see him, and Frank too, for some reason, and Izuku has no reason to refuse. He doubts that he is in as much trouble. After all, he has never failed a contact nor broken the guild rules since he joined about a year ago. Did you call? Izuku says as he steps into the room. Guildmaster Star turns to him and smiles while adjusting his monocular. That I did. Guildmaster Star says, pointing to the table where a tea set is ready. Sit down, please. We have a lot to discuss. Izuku nods and sits down, accepting a teacup from the Guildmaster, and as usual, Frank takes a sip before him. At this point, it's more force of habit than actually worrying about someone trying to poison or drag Izuku, yet Ronin believes it's a good habit to keep. Would you care for a match? Guildmaster Star asks, pointing to a chessboard. Izuku easily recognizes this model. A chessboard where ordinary pieces are replaced by famous heroes and villains. For example, on the hero's side, the king is represented by Nezu, and the queen is All Might. While on the villain side, the king is a representation of the boogeyman of the underground, a well-known legend, but one that Izuku doesn't know if he really exists. The stories are contradictory. Why not? Izuku replies, spinning the board so the villains are on his side and leaving the heroes for Star. But I don't think you called me here just to play. Especially since you asked for Fixer 2. You are correct. Star says, moving his first pawn, which is represented by sidekicks. I called you two for different reasons. But both are related to your renown in the guild. Renown? This? Izuku asks, moving his own pawn, represented by a Yakuza thug. It's barely a year since we got there. And yet, you have been taking multiple contracts weekly and never failed a single one, no matter how difficult the job. Star counter, moving a horse. Naruko. Is that rare? Izuku asks, moving a bishop. An old villain, known as Puppet Master, who was caught by an underground hero a few months ago. Izuku is pretty sure it was Eraserhead, but the man keeps denying it. Aren't we just playing safe? No matter how safe they play, every mercenary here has failed at least once. Star replies. Which brings me to the topic on hand. He moves his own bishop, represented by Midnight. You got a few private requests. Already? Frank, who was scrolling through his phone, asks. I thought it would take longer, considering his age and all that. That's the magic of the underground. Star replies. Age? Past? Nothing matters as long as you bring results. Do I have to accept those contracts? Izuku asks, moving his horse Stain. Not at all. Star replies. Private contracts mean that the client thinks you're the best suited for the job, or the only one suited. But accepting or refusing, they can't do anything. Where can I check it? Izuku asks. Guildmaster Star moves a hook, Endeavor, and snaps his fingers with his left hand. His secretary enters the room with a stack of papers. How many are there? Frank asks, raising an eyebrow. 20? Maybe 30? Star shrugs. As I said, you made quite the name for yourself. This might be a problem, Izuku says, eyeing the stack of papers. Well, I have another offer for you. Star says. For an additional 5% of your rewards, you can hire a secretary to manage your contracts. They know how to handle the paperwork. You just need to explain the types of contracts you wish to accept, and they will send you only the relevant contracts. This, Izuku thinks as he moves his queen, which is represented by Destro from the original Meta Liberation Army. Might be a good idea. You don't need to choose now. but the offer is on the table whenever you want to take it. Then he looks at Frank. As for why I wanted you too. Well, I was curious. How powerful is your healing? Lethal wounds, scars. I have no problems healing any of that. Frank replies easily. Of course, I can't do anything if the person is already dead, and I can't cure diseases. Can you regrow limbs? Or organs? Starts. Never tried before. Frank says. Do you want to try? Star replies, adjusting his monocular again. Frank grins at him and nods. That sounds great. He replies. What do you have in mind? Well, as you know, the Silver Star Guild is a branch of the Silver Star Union. Star explains. One of our many businesses is clinics. As long as you pay, it doesn't matter who you are. We'll treat you. And we'd like to call you for emergencies. Sometimes we receive people on the verge of death. Of course, we will pay you an appropriate rate for your time. I see. Frank says and looks at Izuku. How much are we talking about? Izuku asks. Usually, we pay a fixed amount to our employees. But it'll be different for Fixer. Star replies. Since he's not technically an employee, we'll be paying half of whatever the healed person has to pay. A 50-50 division? Frank asks. What do you think, Necro? Sounds fair, but we should discuss it with the rest of the team first. Izuku replies. But we can do that test. Great. Follow me then. Star replies. Checkmate by the way. Izuku blinks and looks down at the board. He had stopped paying attention to the game, but they kept playing, and now his king is surrounded by Star's all might, a few sidekicks, and a bishop that looked like it's wearing goggles and a scarf. Shrugging, Izuku gets up and follows Star and Frank. In the guild hall, Star soon finds what he is looking for and calls two people. The first one is covered with scars and has a wooden leg. The second looks normal, although a bit pale. First, this one is known as Adder. Star explains. He lost his leg about 2 years ago. And this dash, he points to the pale man. Exile. He lost a lung in an accident when he was young. Both work here. All right. Frank says. Can you take off the leg? Adder doesn't question. He just removes his wooden leg and sits in one of the chairs. Then Frank kneels in front of him and puts a hand on his missing leg. A glow starts, and Izuku hears a few gasps as a new leg forms. About 20 seconds later, a perfectly functional leg is back in place. Well, go easy for now. Your body will need a while to get used to having a leg again. Frank says. And I'd recommend physical therapy because I'm sure this new limb will be quite weak for a while. Then he turns to Owl and does the same, touching his chest, and again, a glow starts. This time, there isn't visual proof that it worked, but it becomes clear that it did when Owl starts breathing much more easily. Well, this answers our question. Star says. Great to know. We'll discuss things with the rest of the group. We should have an answer by tomorrow. Izuku says. And we'll look through the contracts too. Thank you, Guildmaster Star. It's my pleasure. Star replies with an exaggerated bow, and Izuku goes home. Dash. Izuku is sitting at the table, carefully trying to stack a house of cards while talking to Ronin and Crimson Riot. Ronin is looking over the contracts while Crimson Riot, who decided to call himself Katashi after Eraserhead was unable to find his old name, is petting Mittens, who is curled up on his lap. The next one is another kidnapping. Ronin says. The payment is good, but it's for the Yakuza. Kidnappings are really in demand these days. Izuku points. We never did a kidnapping contract before, so why are so many people trying to get us to do it? Who knows? Katashi shrugs. Then the next one is, Ronin frowns down at the paper, an assassination contract. Someone wants us to hunt the Ripper? The Ripper? Katashi asks. Isn't this the copycat that has been replicating a serial killer from the 1800s? Izuku asks. The same. Ronin replies. The contract is to find and kill him. But the reward is not even close to the amount that would normally be asked for a murderer, let alone one of this dangerousness. Let me see. Mittens asks, and Ronin passes the paper to Katashi, who holds it for her. I saw this one before. It has been on the notice board for a good while, but no one wants to do it. The reward is too low, and the job too dangerous. Who is asking it? Izuku asks. A lot of people. It seems that a group put together the money to request. Mittens explains. I think I know what's happening here. Izuku says. Hey, Ronin. Can you call Guildmaster Star? Tell him I want to talk to the contractor for this one. Sure thing, boss. Ronin says, then he gets up to get his phone. Katashi? Izuku calls. You were a hero before. We'll all understand if you don't want a part in this. From what I have heard, this Ripper uses blades as weapons. Katashi replies as he puts Mittens down and gets up. A dragon tattoo he did a few days ago is on display on his bare chest. This means that I am the best option to face him. That's true. Still, I don't want you to go against your morals. Izuku points. If we accept this job, I doubt we can escape from killing him. Surprisingly, I don't feel bad about the thought of killing him. Katashi replies. I'm more worried about you, kid. You're only 8. I guess you're right. Izuku says, looking at his hands. But when I think about killing someone, I feel nothing. The thought of killing is definitely not something that brings me comfort. But I don't feel bad either. I remember I felt the same the night I found Frank dead. I felt nothing looking at a dead body. It's like death doesn't faze me anymore. But I remember crying about a dead bird before. It's probably your quirk, Green Bean. Katashi points. Most quirks, even those that do not include any kind of mutation, give the user a group of instincts that help them use it. For example, the reason why most arsonists have fire quirks is that normally people with fire quirks naturally have a fondness for flames. Something that, if not handled carefully, can easily become pyromania. So, the reason why I feel nothing towards death is because my quirk made me desensitized towards it? Izuku asks. But doesn't that makes me a bad person? I shouldn't like death. Do you? Katashi asks back. No. Izuku replies quickly. I feel nothing towards it, good or bad. There's your answer, kiddo. Your quirk doesn't make you some kind of death-loving psycho. You just don't care about it. Katashi pats his shoulder. And even if it did, there's nothing wrong about this, Aizu. Quirks aren't inherently good or bad. It's how you use it that will make you good or bad. He grins at him. And honestly, cleaning the streets of psychos that heroes don't seem interested in catching seems like a pretty heroic thing for me. It's not heroic. Izuku replies. We aren't doing it out of the goodness of our hearts. We are being paid. And heroes don't kill. You'll be paid much less than what this work is really worth. You could refuse, but you won't. Katashi points. And I didn't know heroes weren't allowed to be paid for their job. As for not killing, Ronin adds as he enters back the kitchen. I can assure you, every hero killed before. It's impossible to constantly fight criminals using superpowers without ever causing a few deaths. Accidental or not. Even All Might has killed before. Ronin points. And he's very careful on his hero work. For real. Have you ever seen Endeavor's numbers? Mittens adds. The man killed more villains this year alone than many vigilantes throughout their whole careers. Unless you intend on becoming an assassin full-time, I doubt you'll ever topple his numbers. And he's the number 2 hero. All right. You win. Izuku replies. I'm not bad for being desensitized towards death. Good. Ronin, Katashi, and Mittens say together with a nod. Chuckling, Izuku goes back to his house of cards. Only 2 left for him to finish. Careful, Izuku. Steady now. Suddenly Dobby and Frank burst into the room, wrestling or something. They bump into the table and all the cards come down, leaving Izuku there still holding the last 2 cards. The 2 idiots keep arguing about something, completely oblivious to Izuku, who just keeps staring at the mess of cards on the table and 2 in his hands. Then with a sigh, he drops them and gets up. Shut up. As soon as the words leave his mouth, Dobby and Frank instantly shut up and look at him with wide eyes. Or one with wide eyes and one with wide eye sockets. FNG God. Are we sure I am the little kid here? If you're going to fight, do it outside. This place is too crowded. He sighs and sits down again. I guess we really need to start looking into moving out. 5 people and a cat are too much for this apartment. As he finishes his rant, he notices that everyone is still silent. Then he looks, blinking at his zombies. We can't talk. Mittens explains. Since you said shut up, it's like our mouths are forcefully shut. What? Izuku asks, horrified. Since when can I do this? Calm down, Aizu. Mittens replies. Try to do the same again. I think you need to give an order. Alright. Izuku takes a deep breath and takes an assertive stance. You can talk. Then it's like everyone's throats were unlocked. Well, Ronin says after a few seconds. I guess we know another facet of your quirk. You can give us orders. I don't like this. Izuku replies, frowning. You guys are my family, not slaves. I don't want to order you around. It's still something you should practice. Dobby points. Even if just for the sake of learning how to control it. I guess. Izuku agrees. Are you guys okay? Sure. It's a weird sensation, but I wouldn't say it's a bad one. Frank replies. And sorry, Aizu. Guess we got too carried away. Yeah, my bad, Green Bean. Dobby adds. We'll be more careful. All right, everything is forgiven. Ronin says. Now, for our next step. Aizu, Guildmaster Star said we can meet the contractors tomorrow at 11 a.m. Perfect. Izuku replies. Katashi, Dobby, you come with me this time. Mittens, you'll be on comms as usual. Frank, stand ready in case healing is needed. Ronin, I want you to try and locate the Ripper. If all goes well, we should be able to catch him before he makes another victim. Nodding their agreement, everyone goes to check their gear and make sure everything is prepared. Izuku is not really that surprised with what he finds when he meets his contractor. In the room Guildmaster Star set for them, there's a tall and skinny old woman, accompanied by a younger woman, probably in her mid-30s, with black hair and red eyes. From what he heard, a lot of people got together to put up this contract, which makes him wonder why they sent those two to meet him. He has already decided to accept the contract. The reason for this meeting is simply to understand the contractor's side. Something that is not very difficult to empathize with. People think the Ripper only appeared a few weeks ago, but that is a lie. The old woman explained to him. The Ripper has been terrorizing the streets for years, and the heroes did do anything for us. There's no fame for them here, so they don't care about us. Only recently, the Ripper got bolder. He started hunting outside his comfort zone, and the press noticed him. And yet, the heroes don't seem interested in catching him. The younger woman adds. The Ripper killed dozens, maybe hundreds of people since he started, and the heroes do nothing. So we went to the guild. The old woman adds. But we are a poor community. Mercenaries work for money, and we don't have enough to pay for a contract like this. She puts a bag on the table and pushes towards Izuku. The Ripper killed my daughter. It took weeks for the body to even be identified. Izuku looks at the younger woman. I was with her when the Ripper attacked. She explains. My quirk is called Tracker. I can find the exact location of anyone as long as I know their name and face. If I only know one of those, I can point to a 2 kilometers area where I know he is. Izuku looks at the bag, then back to the old woman. What's in the bag? Is everything I have. She replies. Everything we have. We gathered everything of value any of us had to pay for this. Inside the bag were a lot of things. Money, trinkets, and anything else that might have some monetary or sentimental value. So, are you willing to give everything you have for this? Izuku asks. As long as the Ripper is on the loose, none of us can truly live. The old woman replies. Any of us can be his next victim. And we already gave up on the heroes. Izuku nods, then reaches into the bag, taking a single thing from it. A beautiful silver pocket watch. Payment accepted. Izuku says and pushes the bag back to the woman. My team will take care of the Ripper. She looks at him awestruck and bows to him. Thank you. She says with tears in her eyes. We'll never forget this. You can thank me by living the rest of your life without. Regrets. Izuku replies as he gets up. The older woman leaves a few minutes later, and the younger woman stays. I want to help. She says. I escaped him once, and I'm sure he'll want to get me again. I can be the bait. What? Izuku replies. That's too dangerous. The Ripper's MO is finding his victims and stabbing them multiple times. No hesitation, no warnings. I know how dangerous it is. She replies. Are you really sure about that? Izuku asks. This isn't being bait. You're practically signing to be a sacrifice. I'm sure. She nods. I have nothing. And the only friend I ever had is dead. No one will miss me. If I die, so be it. It's not like there's a way to bring me back. Well, actually, the plan works, but as Izuku predicted, it leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. As he approaches the dark alley, he finds the Ripper with a knife plunged into his victim's chest. Fighter! Izuku orders, and Fighter instantly takes after the murderer, who has the knife poised for a second stab. As soon as the Ripper sees them, he gets up and starts running, but Izuku knows that Barbarian and Arsonists are close and will soon corner him, so he goes straight to the bleeding woman. Fixer is on his way, but Izuku doubts she'll be alive when he arrives. As Izuku lifts her, she smiles at him. Are you sure you want that? Izuku asks her. Sure, she replies slowly as her skin pales from the lack of blood. Do. She smiles one more time, then closes her eyes. Her breathing stops right after. Izuku lies her back on the floor and pulls his knife, cutting his wrist and letting his blood fall on her body. This is the fastest it ever happened. Her blood starts flowing back to the wound, which quickly closes, and she gasps, opening her eyes. Usually, it takes at least a few seconds for the zombie to wake up. Izuku takes a moment to feel her pulse, but the lack of one confirms that, indeed, she died. Did it work? She asks Izuku. It did. Izuku replies. What do you remember? She frowns for a few seconds. Everything, I think. She replies. I feel like I had a concussion. A few things are slightly blurred. But I can remember everything. She smiles. You can call me Chihiro. I am Izuku. Izuku replies. But call me Necromancer while we are working. Now let's finish this contract. She nods, and they go the way the Ripper ran. It doesn't take long for them to find him, restricted by Barbarian, while Fighter ties him. As Izuku approaches, the Ripper looks at him with a crazed expression. So, are you vigilantes? Are you sending me to the police now? I'll be back, you know? The police are useless. We know. Izuku replies as he pulls the scythe from his back. We aren't vigilantes. We are mercenaries. Oh, I guess I did anger a lot of people. The Ripper replies and starts laughing. But they sent a kid to do the dirty work? How pathetic. What are you going to do? You talk too much. Izuku replies as he walks to the man. He stops and puts the scythe's blade on his neck. Last words. I dash. Too bad. Izuku cuts him and pulls the scythe, easily severing the head, which rolls to the floor. Blood splashes everywhere, practically painting Izuku's costume red. But like other death-related things, Izuku immediately realizes that the blood doesn't bother him. The rest of the body falls down, but Izuku feels nothing about it. Good or bad? Should we bring something as proof? Izuku asks. My word must be enough, but you should take his knife too. Chihiro replies. Izuku nods and picks up the bloodied knife from the corpse, putting it in a small bag. Then he looks back to the headless body and frowns. He picks up the head and puts it close to the rest of the body. Arsonist. He calls. Burn the corpse. Sure thing, boss. Arsonist replies and raises a hand towards the corpse. They leave the burning corpse behind and go back. Izuku sighs at his bloodied state. He really needs a shower now. A few weeks later, Izuku crosses paths with Eraserhead again. Today he's been hired as a sentinel for a paranoid client who is sure there's someone spying on his business. So he brought Mittens and Chihiro with him. Chihiro officially joined the group and adopted the codename Ranger. As it turns out, she's an excellent archer. Meeting Eraserhead was a complete coincidence. It turns out that the building Izuku chose to observe his client's business is the same building where Eraserhead likes to take his break during his patrols. By now, Izuku is sure the man doesn't want to arrest him, so he doesn't tense when he drops by. Eraserhead just looks at the people there and then looks back at Izuku. New member. This is Ranger. Izuku says, shrugging. We met her a few weeks ago. When we were after the Ripper. The Ripper? Eraserhead asks, frowning. He has made no new victims in a while. Is he dead? Izuku shrugs. That was the contract. He's dead, and his body cremated. Izuku observes warily what will be the other man's reaction to him basically admitting he killed someone, but to his surprise, Eraserhead nods at him. I'll let the police know. He replies. They are all wondering when the next victim will appear. Is that all? Izuku blurts before he can stop himself. I just said I killed the Ripper. Yes, you did. Eraserhead replies. And I don't approve of it, but mercenaries kill. I can't do anything about it. Then he sighs. Did you like it? Killing? Izuku asks. Not really. Then I doubt you'll become the next serial murderer. Eraserhead replies. I'm willing to look the other way. You're very morally gray, Eraserhead. Izuku says. Most underground heroes are. Eraserhead shrugs. I still wish that you didn't have to be a mercenary, especially at such a young age. Izuku shrugs and turns back to observe the business. I'm trying to make the best with the hand I got. Izuku replies. I refuse to go to foster care. That's practically a death sentence. He looks up and smiles. I'm sure you agree with me. You never tried to catch me after all. Your point? Eraserhead asks. I am just saying that necromancy is not exactly a common quirk. In fact, I am sure I have never heard of a quirk like mine. Izuku explains. I'm sure anyone with access to the police's quirk database, for example, a sleep-deprived underground hero, could easily find out who I am. Am I right? Eraserhead looks at him for a few seconds and sighs. You're Midoriya Izuku, right? He asks, and Izuku nods. He knows he's taking a gamble with this. He just confirmed his identity, so if Eraserhead wants to catch him, he has everything he needs. But to his surprise, Eraserhead does the last thing he would expect. I am Aizawa Shoyuda. That's your name, Izuku says and looks at Ranger, who nods at him. She can locate him, which means this is his real name. Your real name? Yes, this is my real name. Eraserhead replies. Don't tell anyone outside of your team, okay? I promise. Izuku says with a serious nod. Good. Eraserhead replies, and after a second he slowly reaches Izuku's head and ruffles his hair. I need to go back to patrol. Be safe, kid. Izuku nods and Eraserhead leaves. When he turns back to Chihiro and Mittens, they are smiling at him. He didn't even know cats could smile, but Mittens apparently can. A few days later, Izuku is taking a walk during the night. It's not that late, about 9 p.m., but still. Most of his team is out doing a job, so he has nothing to do. As he passes through an alley, he hears a muffled cry. This doesn't sound like a cat. Izuku mumbles as he checks his pockets. He doesn't have his scythe because carrying that thing around is impossible without looking like a crazy cosplayer, but he always carries a pocket knife when he walks alone. So even if he finds a murderer in this alley, he probably can deal with it. Hopefully. This is a horrible idea. He goes in anyway. Gripping the knife in his pocket tightly, Izuku steps into the alley. Anyone here? He asks, and he hears a muffled gasp. He takes a few more steps, and then his training kicks in. Instinctively, Izuku ducks, avoiding a punch to the face. Then he pulls his knife, grabs the arm that tried to punch him, pulls it towards him, and presses the knife to the neck of the aggressor. And then he notices that this person, while taller than him, is too short to be an adult. As he walks back, still holding the arm, the person has no choice but to go with him, stepping into the light. The first thing Izuku notices is the gravity-defying purple hair. Then the tear-stained cheeks. Purple eyes, puffy from all the crying, and with heavy eye bags that only someone with serious insomnia would have. And finally, the muzzle tightly and painfully digging into his face. Izuku slowly pulls his knife away from the other kid and drops his arm. Then he raises his hands. "I promise I won't hurt you," he says. "But this looks painful. Can I take this thing out of your face?" Days off are rare for Shoyuta. As an underground hero and teacher, he rarely has the luxury of taking a day off for himself. And even when he does have one, he spends all day preparing his next classes and grading papers. No, it's definitely not because he's a workaholic with enough accumulated time off to take a sabbatical year, and Netsu has to practically force him to take a day off for him to have a rest day. Shut up, Zashi. On this day, he is at home grading his classwork and wondering why on earth he agreed to become a teacher when he hears a knock at his door. This makes him raise an eyebrow. Nemuri has a key to the house, and as much as she likes to drop by unannounced, when she does, she just walks in. Zashi is working, and even if he has forgotten his key, he knows where they keep one hidden. If someone else was coming to visit, they would have sent a message first. And villains are not the type to knock before they break in. He contemplates the chance that it might be a salesman, but the building won't let them in, and he lives on the 4th floor, so this is probably not the case. Therefore, he has no idea who it could be. He thinks as he goes to the door. Whoever it is can't cause me a bigger headache than those essays. When he opens the door, he immediately takes it back. "Hey, Aizawa-san. Your Eraserhead." Two voices draw his gaze downwards where he finds who it belongs to. The first one, Shoyuta, is more than familiar. Necromancer? Or maybe he should call him Izuku since he's not in costume and they're not at the guild. The second one is also a kid, a bit taller than Izuku, with purple gravity-defying hair and suspicious marks around his mouth. And wait, did he recognize Shoyuta? Nope, not on my day off. Shoyuta thinks as he slams the door shut. He's considering whether or not he should just jump out the window when the knocking resumes. "You seem pretty sure of this," the unfamiliar voice says. "Of course I am." Izuku replies. "Come on, Aizawa-san, don't make me pick the lock and enter." "I will." Sheet, the kid knows how to pick locks? He might. If anyone would randomly have this skill, it would be him. And Shoyuta is not about to let two children lose unsupervised in his home. Sighing, he opens the door again and looks at them. Izuku looks at him with an innocent smile, though his eyes are filled with mischief. The other kid seems to look at Shoyuta with a mix of admiration and wariness. The latter he's used to, but the former? Shoyuta looks back at Izuku and sighs, gesturing for them to come in. "Please, tell me the kid isn't a zombie too." Shoyuta says as he observes the boys taking off their shoes. "Nope. He just looks like one." Izuku says, grinning. "Wait," the other kid says. "I don't know why you would think I'm a zombie." "Oh, Toshi, I already said you don't need to mask your questions." Izuku says. "Everyone here understands what you went through." "What?" The purple kid Toshi asks, then slaps a hand over his mouth. "You're saying you also have a villainous quirk?" Again with a statement instead of a question. Whatever this boy's quirk is, it's probably activated via call and response. "Yup. Did I forget to tell you my quirk? My bad." Izuku says and laughs. "How about you explain what's happening and how did you find my home first, problem child?" Shoyuta asks. "Simple. Ranger knows your name and face." Izuku shrugs. "That's her quirk. She can locate anyone as long as she knows their name and face. Which means that she can locate Shoyuta anywhere." "I didn't know this would be your home." "Sorry." Well, it's not like Shoyuta didn't intend to tell him where he lives in the future. "Whatever," Shoyuta grumbles as he walks to the kitchen and starts his coffee maker. He needs coffee to deal with whatever bullshit this is going to be. "I doubt you came here just to talk. Especially if you brought," he looks at the purple boy, "a living kid." "Well, this is Shinso Hitoshi, and I found him muzzled in a dark alley. I can't really help him alone, and my group can barely keep one kid alive, let alone two." Izuku says. "He's an Eraserhead fanboy. You are Eraserhead. So I thought, why not bring him to you? You like strays, right? Cats, problem child. This is a whole but child." Shoyuta says, exasperated. "Hey, Look him in the face and tell me he's not cute like a kitten. Izuku says, throwing a hand over the purple kid's, Shinso Hitoshi's shoulder and poking his cheek. If you pet him, I'm 83.7% sure he'll start purring. Meanwhile, Hitoshi was looking at them with a half-confused, half-amused expression. Well, at least he doesn't seem wary anymore. Well, I can't just take him in. Shoyuta says, though he's actually already sold on the idea. I need to talk to my dash. I'm home. A ridiculously loud voice calls from the entrance door. Husband first, talk about timing. Hey, do we have guests? Zashi says as he enters. There's 2 pairs of shoes at the door and Shoyuta erases his quirk as soon as Zashi is in his line of sight, but he's already used to it and keeps talking until he sees Izuku and Shinso in the living room. Hey there, little listeners. He looks at Shoyuta. I thought you only had 1 kid? I don't have any kids, Zashi. Shoyuta says. You talk about me, Eraser? Izuku says in a mockingly sweet tone. I knew you had a heart. I hate you, Shoyuta says. He's not sure if he's referring to the kid or his loud husband. The demon kid just laughs at his face, and the sound totally doesn't warm Shuta's stone and cold heart. He has no idea why Zashi is giving him this knowing smile either. The BSTRD is asking to sleep on the couch. Well, since your husband hi present Mike. I'm a huge fan of your radio, can you give me your autograph? Is here. You can talk with him. Izuku chirps, pushing a notebook he got from God knows where into Zashi's hand. Hey little listener, sure can. Zashi says, signing the notebook. The name's Yamada Hizashi, by the way. I'm Midoriya Izuku. Izuku replies. I imagine your grumpy husband introduced me as Necromancer, though. He sure did. It's nice to finally put a face to the name, though. Zashi replies, giving the notebook back. And what is that Shoyuta needs to talk with me about? He wants us to adopt a kid. Shoyuta says, pointing to Hitoshi, who waves at him. This is Shinso Hitoshi. I found him muzzled in an empty alley. Izuku says. He's lovely and could easily pass for Eraser's bio child. Zombie listener. Zombie listener? You had me the moment you said, muzzled. The kid is ours. Wait. Hitoshi says. You don't even know why I was muzzled. It doesn't matter, little listener. Zashi replies. There's no good reason for muzzling a child. Kid, Zashi was muzzled because of his quirk when he was younger. Shoyuta says. My quirk is necromancy, Toshi. Izuku adds. I can literally raise the dead. It's hard to get more villainous than that. Erasure wasn't a well-regarded quirk either. Zashi says, pointing to Shoyuta. Sho's teachers during middle school used to force him to wear a BLNDFLD. None of us will judge you for your quirk. Shoyuta says. We all suffered quirk discrimination. Hitoshi looks at them for a few seconds and nods. My quirk is brainwashing. He says. I can control people if they respond to a question I ask. That's amazing. Izuku jumps, his eyes almost looking alive. What are your limits? Can you order anything? Can you control multiple people? Any question works? Is this why your questions always sound like statements? What about Dash? Kid, let him breathe. Shoyuta interrupts him. I don't know. Hitoshi says. I never got the chance to train my quirk. Well, I'm happy to help you with it. Izuku replies. I wonder if your quirk works on dead people, he mutters. That's actually a good question. Shoyuta says. How do your zombies even work? Dobby is literally only bones. He has no brain to be controlled. Look, I gave up trying to understand Dobby a long time ago. Izuku says. He makes no sense even by my quirk standards. Skeleton. You have a living skeleton. Hitoshi says. Well, living is a bit of a stretch. Izuku replies. But as I said, I can raise the dead. I thought you were the dead. Hitoshi points. I mean, your eyes have no life. And your hands are so cold that I thought you had an ice quirk. Izuku laughs at that. Yeah, that's part of my quirk. But I'm alive. Izuku says, grabbing Hitoshi's hand and putting it against his chest. See? My heart does beat. That's, Hitoshi says in confusion. My grandma's heart beat faster, and she died of heart failure. That's just how my quirk works. Izuku shrugs. If I remember correctly. According to what I remember from the only time I visited a quirk specialist, it's because my quirk is blood-based and my skin is fragile. My heart beats slowly so I don't die of blood loss from a simple paper cut. Makes sense, I guess. Hitoshi says. That's the weirdest quirk I ever heard of, though. Yeah. I hear that a lot. Izuku snorts. Anyway, it's decided then. Toshi, these are your new parents. Pretty sure that's not how adoption works. Hitoshi says, raising an eyebrow. It is when the parents work for Nedzu. Shoyuta replies. Yup. Zashi says as he looks at his phone. Just talk to him. He said the adoption will be ready by the weekend. And your current foster parents will be in jail in 2 days. He looks at Shoyuta. He asked if you want to do the honors. Slapping the cuffs on a pair of quirkish child abusers? Shoyuta asks. Count me in. Oh, by the way, Shoyuta. Zashi says. Looks like the next door apartment is finally being rented. Some tall, pale, black-haired guy is talking to the landlord. Tall, pale, and Shoyuta looks at Izuku. Black-haired? No, it has to be just a coincidence. There's more than one tall, pale, black-haired person. Yeah. The guy is white as paper. Looks like he never saw the sun before. Zashi says. He's talking to the landlord right now. Izuku looks at Shoyuta in confusion. Looks like he's thinking the same. I mean, we are looking for a new apartment. Izuku says. Frank's apartment is too small for all of us, but, he frowns. Hold on. Saying that, Izuku grabs his phone and walks to the door dialing a number. As he opens the door, and at this exact moment, the next door opens, and the landlord steps out. Behind him, Shoyuta hears a song. I went into the shop one day to get an ice cream treat. 'Cause ice cream is my favorite thing to eat. Dobby, I'm gonna kill you. He hears an angry voice calling just as Izuku stops the call. As the other person steps outside, he and Izuku look at each other for several seconds. Well, this is awkward. Zashi says after a few moments of silence. I mean, I guess calling everyone for a job that easy was too much, and I probably should have suspected something when you insisted I didn't need to go. Izuku says. But was that necessary? Well, it was supposed to be a surprise. Fighter replies. I wasn't expecting our neighbor to be Aizawa, though. Oh, so you know each other. The landlord says. Good, here's the key. The rent is due on the first day. I don't pry into your business, and you don't bring problems to my building. Having said that, she leaves. Oh, okay, Izuku says and shakes his head. Well, it looks like we are neighbors now. Aizawa already knows, Fighter. The name's Ronin. Then he looks at Ronin. You already know Aizawa. These are Yamada Hizashi and Shinso Hitoshi. Didn't know Eraserhead and Present Mike were married. Ronin says, then looks at Hitoshi. Or that they had a son. Well, they have now. Izuku says, smiling innocently as Ronin raises an eyebrow. Don't worry. For the sake of my mental sanity, I'll ignore this. Ronin says, turning to Hizashi and Hitoshi. Nice to meet you all. Hey, nice to meet ya. Zashi greets. Yo. Hitoshi says. Nice ringtone. Ronin's expression looks like someone who has just eaten a lemon as he turns to Izuku. I'm killing Dobby. He says. That DMN skeleton is dead. Izuku chuckles and pats Ronin on the arm. Well, he is dead. He says. When are we moving? Tomorrow. Ronin replies. There's not much to move. I guess we'll need to buy furniture, though. Frank? No, not Frank. Chihiro. Izuku nods. Yeah, Chihiro and I can go. Yeah, good idea. Ronin says. I wouldn't trust Frank with decorating his room, let alone a full apartment. Out of curiosity. Hitoshi says. I'd like to know how many you have in your group. Well, there's me, Dobby, Ronin, Frank, Mittens, Katashi, and Chihiro at the moment. So 6 in total. 7 if you count me. Izuku says. And how many of them are alive? Shoyuta asks. Izuku raises a finger. You don't count. Then, 0. Izuku shrugs. By the way, I'm out of jelly pouches. What? Zashi says. Sho, you aren't teaching the zombie listener your eating habits, right? He didn't need me to teach him anything. Shoyuta replies. Well, I'm the only one who eats. And none of us can cook. Izuku defends. No. This won't do. Zashi says. You're eating with us. I don't want to impose. Izuku says, waving his hands and blushing. Nonsense. I insist. Zashi replies. Give up, problem child. Shoyuta says. You won't convince him. Just come. Shoyuta watches as the problem child still tries to convince Zashi that it's not necessary. Good luck to him. One word that perfectly describes Yamada Hizashi is stubborn. Shoyuta is sure that his new neighbors will make his days a lot louder. But as he watches his new son and Izuku talking, he realizes he doesn't mind. I'll miss my naps though. So, explain to me again why we are the decorators. Mittens says. Izuku, Mittens, and Chihiro are walking around the big mall, searching for everything they need to decorate their new apartment. Mittens is perched on Izuku's shoulder, and Chihiro is right behind them. Because Ronin is too minimalist. Katashi would turn the apartment into a gym. Frank would just grab the first thing that catches his eye, which means the most outrageous colors you can think of. And I don't trust that Dobby won't start a fire if he sees something he doesn't like. Izuku explains. You, me, and Chihiro are the only ones with common sense. Chihiro, I get. Mittens replies. But I'm a cat. I don't care for human decoration as long as we have a cat tree or a cardboard box. Preferably the box. Yeah, sure. But I have a surprise for you after we buy what we need. Izuku says, smiling and petting the cat's head. So, just bear with me for now. Fine. Mittens replies with a huff. You're lucky you're my favorite. One of our stops better be a pet shop. Sure thing, my overlord. Izuku says, scratching the cat behind the ear. Where should we start? We need things for the living room and bedrooms. Chihiro says. Since you're the only one who sleeps, you're taking one of the bedrooms. We are making the second one, Frank's lab, and the third one will be Mittens' office. Let's start with the living room. Izuku suggests. The group walks together to the furniture store, where they begin their search. A kid, a zombie, and a cat walk into a store. Izuku says with a chuckle. This sounds like the beginning of some bad joke. And what would the punchline be? Mittens asks. Who knows? Izuku shrugs. What do we need? We need a sofa, beanbags, shelves, a coffee table. Chihiro lists. Don't forget my cat tree. Mittens says. Wrong store. Oh, maybe a few potted plants? Izuku says. To give some life to the ambient. We can barely keep you alive, let alone plants. Mittens replies. Fair. Izuku shrugs. How about fake plants? Like plastic flowers or something? I guess. Mittens says. I bet Dobby and Frank will somehow make a joke out of it. Probably. Izuku nods. Well, let's start. He says, looking around the store. Hey, I found the couches. Mittens says. Let's choose one. Then she jumps down his shoulder and runs ahead. Izuku chuckles and goes after her. As they sit on the different couches, trying to find the best one, Chihiro watches them with a fond smile on her face. She takes her phone and snaps a picture of them. Hollywood undead. Try to hide. Photosynth. Why are they so cute? Just bones. Looks like you're having fun. Meanwhile, I'm trapped with Mr. Boring, cleaning the apartment. Dr. Victor. Things are much better at the guild. I already healed 5 open fractures today. Never a dull moment with those mercenaries. Rise from your grave. Hey, anyone knows a good flower arrangement that we can use to decorate? To liven up things a bit. Just bones. Rise from your grave. Dobby? Dobby? What happened? Fight me. Dobby just grabbed his wallet and ran out, yelling something about flowers. What the hell just happened? Rise from your grave. I think I made a mistake. Dr. Victor. I just finished things here. I can go find the Skeletor and help him with the flowers. Rise from your grave. I definitely made a mistake. Try to hide. Let's hope they don't choose anything too weird. You definitely made a mistake. Dash, straight face. Dobby is not exactly what one would call a flower boy. He may not remember anything about his past, but he is sure that he has never touched a plant before. But hell, to get away from the cleanup with Ronin, he'll take anything. Also, Izuku only asked for a flower arrangement. He didn't give clear information about what he wanted. In Dobby's books, this gives him free rein to mess around. It's probably better to get fake flowers. I don't think Izuku can make zombie flowers. Dobby thinks aloud as he walks. That's actually something I'd like to see. Like a true professional, he perfectly ignores the stares he gets from the people. It's like they never saw a skeleton before. What kind of flowers should I get? Dobby wonders aloud. I suggest chrysanthemums. A very familiar voice says. Dobby turns around and finds the pale figure of his white-haired older brother annoying teammate looking at him with his usual smile. Don't you have people to heal? Dobby asks, raising an inexistent eyebrow. Slow day. Frank shrugs. Healed a few people. If they need me again, Star has my number. Okay then. Dobby says, looking around. Chrysanthemums, you said? Yup. Frank replies, smirking. Death flower. Oh God. Why didn't I think of it? Dobby laughs. We should throw in some spider lilies as well. Oh, carnations too. Frank adds. It'll give it a nice touch. This will be quite the bouquet. Dobby says, laughing. How about... He stops and looks a bit ahead, a smirk tugging on his non-existent lips. I have the perfect idea. He points ahead. Frank turns around, and his eyes widen at the sight. He looks at Dobby, grinning like a madman. Dobby, I platonically love you. He says. Let's go. Dash, straight face. For some reason, Izuku feels a cold chill run down his spine. And he is sure that it is related to his resident skeleton and doctor. These two together, unsupervised, are a disaster waiting to happen. Well, that's a problem for future Izuku. Present Izuku is carrying Mittens with a hand clasped over her eyes. He has a surprise prepared for her after all. As they enter the underground support company, Izuku takes his hand away. Mittens' eyes widen at all the devices, tools, and components she can see around. She jumps down and starts walking around, looking at everything. I know I'm dead, but I didn't expect to end up in heaven. She says in wonder. Well, we are building an office for you, but you'll need tools for that. Izuku says. So, choose everything you need. There's no budget. Mittens looks at Izuku like he just hung the moon. I love you, Izuku. She says and starts walking around. As Mittens does her thing, Izuku walks to the counter and has a hushed conversation with the attendant. He came here a few weeks ago at Guildmaster Star's recommendation. This is an underground support company and part of the Silver Star Union. He came here to commission a gift for his favorite zombie cat. Is it ready? Izuku asks in a hushed tone. We finished yesterday. The attendant replies. I still don't know how anyone will operate it, though. Don't worry about it. Izuku waves them off. Just bring it here. All right. The attendant shrugs and walks away. A few minutes later, she comes back with a small backpack-looking thing in her hands. And just in time, because here comes Mittens and Chihiro. Looks like Mittens got Chihiro to make a list with everything she wants to buy. Hey Mittens. One more surprise for you. Izuku says, showing the backpack. What's that? Mittens asks, tilting her head in confusion. Try connecting to it. Izuku says. Mittens closes her eyes and concentrates for a few seconds. Then the backpack starts moving. From its side, arm-like things expand and start moving around. Mittens opens her eyes and looks at it in wonder. She tries it for a few seconds and soon is moving it like it's the easiest thing in the world. I can finally build my own things. She says excitedly. That's amazing. I'm calling it the back arms. Glad you like it. Izuku says, grabbing the backpack and carefully strapping it on her back. How is it? A bit heavy, but I can get used to it. Mittens replies, extending the arms again and moving the fingers. It's perfect. This will be so useful. Huh, a technology quirk? The attendant asks. And this device? An animal translator? Would it work with any animal? Or does it only work because of your quirk? What do you think I am, human? Mittens replies. I am Mittens, destroyer of worlds. My gear is nothing short of perfect. Any animal can use it, but of course, if you put this on some animal with limited intelligence, you'll only hear gibberish. That's still amazing. The attendant replies. Would you be willing to sell us the blueprints? We will pay the appropriate value for it. This invention is revolutionary. This little thing? It was barely worth my time. A ding is heard on the attendant screen. You can have it, but don't expect me to sell my other inventions. She looks at Chihiro, who puts the list she made on the counter. We also want to buy everything on this list. Very well. The attendant says, nodding. Still, I can't have this for free. She looks at the list and smiles. All right, you can take everything on this list. On the house. Do as you wish, human. Mittens replies. Perfect. The attendant nods. We'll arrange for it to be delivered for you as soon as possible. Where would you like to be delivered? Mittens look at Izuku. Our apartment. Izuku replies, quickly jotting down the address. Guildmaster Star assured me it's safe to trust you. I know you won't double-cross us. He says, smiling, but the warning is clear. Understood. The attendant replies, not even batting an eye at the threat. Everything will be delivered by tomorrow. Perfect. Izuku says with a smile. As Izuku gets home, he lets out an impressed whistle at how fast the furniture store is. Everything they ordered for the living room has already been delivered and assembled. As he walks in, he sees Ronin scratching his head while looking at the new TV remote. I have no idea how this thing works. He says as he notices Izuku, Chihiro, and Mittens walking in. These new technologies make no sense. You talk like you are some kind of elder. Mittens says. I think I'm gonna start calling you old man. Don't you dare. Ronin replies, pointing the remote at her. Dobby and Frank are already annoying enough. Speaking of them. Izuku chimes in. Aren't they home yet? How long does it take to buy some flowers? I'm almost afraid of what they're getting. Chihiro says. Frank is the one who makes most of the money here, so I guess we can't say much about his tastes. That's why he's getting one of the rooms. Izuku replies. Yeah, his lab, right? Mittens says. What does he even need a lab for? Ronin asks. Is he getting medical stuff? Izuku, Chihiro, and Mittens look at him with a "you're serious?" expression. What? Before anyone could reply, the door opened, and Dobby and Frank entered. We got the flowers. Frank announces as he enters. And I'm sure you will all love it. Dobby adds. Oh, welcome. Izuku turns and stops, blinking slowly at them. Why am I not surprised? What did he expect? Well, certainly he wasn't expecting them to bring home a giant funeral wreath made of what seems to be spider lilies, chrysanthemums, hyacinths, carnations, and orchids. Ronin looks at them with the biggest, kill me again, expression anyone ever saw. I won't even question. He says. I'll go back to trying to figure out how this thing works. He turns back to the TV. Oh, is technology too hard for you, old man? Dobby asks, smirking, which sends Mittens into a laughing fit. See? I said it. Mittens says. You do sound like an old man. Someone will end my suffering. Ronin says, pinching the bridge of his nose. Can you even have migraines? Izuku asks curiously. It's the feeling that counts. Ronin mumbles. Anyway, Mittens, help me here. Izuku, your things are in your room. Perfect. Izuku says, grinning. I'll go decorate. Saying that Izuku goes to his room, fully intending to only leave when he has it decorated exactly as he wants to. And then Dobby has the audacity to say, "Wasn't I supposed to burn it? I warned him so many times. Don't burn it, Dobby." And what did he do? He burned it. So, in the end, we lost the bonus. Shoyuta looks up from the essays he's grading, raising an eyebrow at the green-haired gremlin sitting with his legs draped over the back of his couch. He's been rambling non-stop about this contract for the last 20 minutes, and Shoyuta didn't catch half of it. "Okay," Shoyuta says. "But what are you doing here?" "Ronin's orders." Izuku shrugs. "Apparently, I spend too much time with the dead and need to make some alive friends or something. I don't think I'm friend material for you." Shoyuta replies, looking back at the papers. "Frankly, I have my doubts whether you even count as alive." Izuku says, and Shoyuta doesn't even need to look to know the little sheet is smirking at him. "I'm waiting for Hitoshi, though. I said I would help him decorate his room after he comes back from the mall with Yamada-san. And I conclude you won't leave me to work in peace until they come back." Shoyuta deadpans. "No dice, eraser. I'm bored as hell right now," Izuku says, grinning. Shoyuta glares at the boy for a few moments, but the kid seems completely immune to it. "Fine." Shoyuta puts down the papers. "Since I'm obviously not going to get any work done, we might as well do something productive." He looks at his phone. They aren't coming back for a few hours still. "How long can a mall trip take?" Izuku asks. "You never went to the mall with Zashi," Shoyuta says with a haunted expression. Flashbacks flowing through his mind. "Oh, okay," Izuku says, looking slightly weirded out. "Anyway, come with me." Shoyuta gets up and grabs his capture weapon. "If you want to grab a weapon, go now." "All right," Izuku says and runs to his apartment. A few moments later, he comes back holding a scythe. Shoyuta has seen him holding it a few times already, but he never saw him using it. It's not the most orthodox weapon. "Do you know how to use this?" Shoyuta asks as they walk towards the roof. "I'm still training, but I'd say I don't SCK at it." Izuku giggles. Ronin is very harsh in his training. They get to the roof, and Shoyuta walks to the middle of it. "Okay, show me what you can do," he says. "All right." Izuku nods and gets in position, holding the scythe with both hands. Maybe the scythe is just huge, or perhaps the kid is just tiny, but the weapon is almost twice his size. "Here I go." Saying that, Izuku runs at Shoyuta, holding the weapon behind him. Despite the weight and size of the scythe, the boy is deceptively strong and really fast. Izuku swings the weapon in a circular motion, aiming the back of the blade at Shuta's waist, which forces him to jump to avoid it. Shoyuta then sends a strand of his catch weapon to try to catch Izuku, but the boy jumps out of the way and swings his scythe at the strand, cutting it. Shoyuta didn't expect the weapon to be that sharp. But before he could think more about it, Izuku was already at his face, swinging the butt of the scythe at his neck. Shoyuta sidesteps out of the way and sends a kick that hits Izuku in the stomach. The kid flies backward but quickly recovers and goes back on the offensive, trying to keep Shoyuta constantly on the defensive. It's a good strategy, but the kid is inexperienced and has a lot of openings. Openings Shoyuta knows how to exploit. As Izuku tries to swing the scythe again, Shoyuta holds the weapon's handle, immobilizing it in place, and then launches his capture weapon, trapping Izuku's arms, which forces him to drop it. Shoyuta takes the chance to completely immobilize him. If your opponent is taller and stronger than you, be sure they don't manage to grab you or your weapon. Shoyuta says. "Understood." Izuku replies, pouting at being caught but with determination in his dead eyes. Shoyuta is very impressed, though. The boy is inexperienced and not very strong, but that's to be expected from someone so young. Still, at such young age, this kid has a lot more potential than half of Shuta's first years. "Again," Shoyuta says, and Izuku nods, getting up and reading his weapon. "Here I go," Izuku says and rushes at Shoyuta again. Dash, straight face. God, Izuku is tired. Aizawa is almost as much of a SLV driver as Ronin. Still, training with him was really fun. But now, as Izuku helps Hitoshi set up his cat sanctuary, his room, He's starting to feel his muscles aching from all the training. How long did you two spend training? Hitoshi asks as he sticks his Wild Wild Pussycats poster on the wall. A few hours? Izuku replies, internally smiling at Hitoshi, finally feeling comfortable enough to ask him questions. How long did you two spend in the mall? Hitoshi looks at him with a haunted expression. 12 hours. He says, God, I'll never do this again. Yamada is worse than a rich girl with a limitless credit card. Now I get why Aizawa didn't want to come too. Yeah, he might have mentioned something about it. Izuku says, stretching his shoulders. But God, Aizawa is harsh. Who's worse, Aizawa or Ronin? Hitoshi asks, smirking. Honestly, I'm not sure. Izuku replies. They are both very strict teachers in their own manner. Well, I guess since Ronin is training me to stay alive, he is harsher with his training. Makes sense. Hitoshi nods. And done. He looks around the room. What do you think? Looks great, Hito. Izuku smiles. I'm sure Mittens would love this place. And tease me mercilessly. Hitoshi sighs. Your cat is a gremlin. Every cat is. Izuku replies. The difference is that Mittens is smart like a human. Actually, I think she's smarter. She probably is. Hitoshi nods. I wonder what her IQ is. Who knows? Izuku shrugs. So, wanna hang out or something? I guess. Hitoshi shrugs. But what can we do? Don't know. Izuku replies. I might have something in my apartment, though. Good enough. Hitoshi replies. Let's go. Izuku grins, and the two of them go back to Izuku's apartment. Hitoshi raises an eyebrow at the funeral wreath hanging right above the entrance door but doesn't question it. As they walk in, they find Frank leaving the kitchen with a bag of those jalapeno chips he likes for some reason. Oh, hey there, kiddos. He waves at them. How are you two? Good, sore. Hitoshi and Izuku reply at the same time. Sore? Did you have training today? Frank asks, looking up as he tries to remember Izuku's training schedule. Not really, but I got to train a bit with Aizawa. Izuku says. He's as harsh as Ronin. I see. Frank nods, then he gives them a grin. Well, luckily for you, I have the perfect medicine for that. He says and starts nudging both of them. Come to my lab, please. He has a lab? Hitoshi mutters to Izuku as they walk. They soon find themselves in front of a door with a keep out sign and several biohazard warning symbols on it. There is also a sign that reads, Dr. Frank N. Stein's LAB. Welcome to my lab. Frank says, opening his door and nudging them inside. Izuku hasn't been inside yet, but he helped Frank design it. And he's sure it's not what Hitoshi is expecting. Because this lab is basically what every gamer would call their dream room. Because I'm terrible at describing scenarios and too lazy to even try, here is a picture of how I imagine Frank's lab. Wow. Hitoshi says. I expected a doctor's office, not paradise. Glad you like it. Frank says and gives Hitoshi a key. You're welcome anytime. Just never let the old man in. He winks and pushes each one into a very comfy gaming chair. As for your sore muscles. He turns to Izuku, pressing a hand to his shoulders, and immediately Izuku feels all the pain leaving his body and sighs in relief. The doctor prescribes leisure, relaxation. He turns around and turns on the screens. And Minecraft. Frank, you're not a do-dash, Izuku starts. Shoo, Hitoshi interrupts. Don't argue with the doctor, Izuku. Yup, don't argue with the doctor. Frank says. Go build and have fun. A few hours later, Izuku, Hitoshi, and Frank built a giant replica of the Roman Colosseum. They intend to build all of the 7 new wonders of the world, but this is a long-time project. Also, Izuku watches with no small amount of amusement as Hitoshi and Frank start talking about their favorite streamers and start arranging to stream as well. Straight face. Hizashi is very excited about this. He'll be teaching his zombie little listener how to cook today. He rarely has this opportunity. Maybe he should start a cooking segment on his radio. That would be amazing. Still, everyone seems sure he can't teach Izuku how to cook. That makes no sense. Everyone can learn how to cook. Cooking is easy. He frowns slightly as he steps into Izuku's apartment and sees the kitchen. That's the smallest kitchen I ever saw in my life. Hisashi says. Yeah, that's one of the reasons this place was so hard to rent. Izuku says. The apartment is big, so most of the people interested were families. But the kitchen is too small. Makes sense. Hisashi replies. Well, it's not much, but we can work with this. He smiles at Izuku. I'll teach you how to make tonkatsu. It's simple and delicious. He claps once and starts gathering the materials. Why don't we start with cutting the pork? Okay. Izuku says excitedly as he pulls a stepping stool and grabs a knife. All right. Hisashi carefully guides his hand, showing him the right way to cut it. Keep your hand firm, don't force it. Let the knife do the work. He nods as Izuku seems to be doing well and turns around to grab the flour. Okay, now we dash. Arg. Hisashi turns around and sees Izuku clutching his bleeding finger. DMN fragile skin. The knife barely touched me. Oh, heavens. Hisashi runs to Izuku and pulls him to the living room to bandage his finger. A few minutes later, they go back to the kitchen. Okay, I guess it's better if you leave the cutting to M. What is that? He screams when he looks at the pork wiggling around at the kitchen sink. Oh shit. Izuku mumbles and stabs the pork with the knife. Sorry, I guess my blood touched the meat. He says. I'll ask Dobby to dispose of this. He says and starts walking away, carrying the meat still wiggling in the knife. Hisashi blinks a few times at the frankly terrifying scene and looks back to the kitchen. I think we should try something else. He mutters to himself. Something that doesn't include knives or meat. A few minutes later, they are both back in the kitchen, this time with another set of ingredients. Okay, zombie listener. Let's try something else. This time without knives or meat. Hisashi says. How about baking a cake? It should be easier. Izuku nods. Let's do it. That's the spirit. Hisashi grins. Let's start with beating the eggs. Baking is easy. Nothing can go wrong. Everything went wrong. Hisashi sighs as he looks at the kitchen, now covered in flour and eggs. How did this even happen? The cake didn't even get to the oven. Sorry. Izuku says with a sigh. It's okay. Accidents happen. Hisashi says, running his hand through his flour-covered hair. Okay, let's clean this mess. It takes them about half an hour to clean everything up. Then Hisashi spends a few more minutes trying to come up with something else. I know. He snaps his fingers. Something impossible to get wrong. Instant noodles. It's perfect. It's literally just boiling water, then throwing the noodles in. It's impossible to get it wrong. Are you sure you're not doing this on purpose? Hisashi asks, looking at the disaster in front of him. The dry noodles are completely burnt and the water is still cold. How can this happen? I guess I'm just a lost cause. Izuku sighs. Thank you for trying though. I'm not giving up just yet. Hisashi says determinedly. There has to be something you can cook. Hisashi is not one to give up. He's sure Izuku can learn how to cook. For the rest of the day they kept trying different things, but all of them ended in disaster. In the end, even Hisashi has to give up. Still, he intimates Izuku to have dinner with them every night. Just because he can't teach Izuku to cook doesn't mean he will let little zombie listener go hungry. Today is a big day, and Dobby will make sure it is special. Simple, today is Izuku's birthday. A day that for Izuku has not been very special since he turned 4. Between his abusive parents and the time they spent building the Necromancer's reputation, Izuku hasn't had a real birthday party in 5 years. And that's something all the zombies have decided to remedy. They made plans last night while Izuku was sleeping. All that was needed was to find a way to get Izuku out of the apartment while Ronin and Chihiro prepared everything. Of course, they enlisted the help of Aizawa and Yamada. The team was all gathered inside Mittens' office, discussing the plan. Yamada is the most excited about the plan, while Aizawa clutches a coffee mug like it's the most precious thing in the world. I understand the plan. Aizawa says. But why are we here at 5 a.m.? Because Izuku is the very definition of an early bird. Dobby replies. Unless he has come from a night mission, he always wakes up at 6 a.m. at the latest. Which means we have less than an hour to make the plan. Ronin adds. We need to find a way to get him out of the house. But he can't suspect it. This might be easier than you think. Katashi says. I mean, he never mentioned his birthday approaching. I think he forgot. That's probably what happened. Dobby says. Izuku doesn't really think his birthday is a special date. So, even though his birthday is right after two others dash, he points to Yamada. While Hitoshi would have wanted to be here, he's having a sleepover in Izuku's room, so they decided to let him sleep. He probably forgot his own. In this case, we can take him somewhere. Katashi says. But where? Oh, I know. Yamada says. There's an arcade not very far from here. Hitoshi mentioned it the other day. He frowns. He also mentioned he has never been to one. Same with Izuku. Frank says. We talked the other day while he was at my lab. Why was he in your lab? Did he get hurt? Ronin asks. He said he has never been to an arcade since he didn't have friends at school. Frank waves him off. And his parents wouldn't waste money on him. He turns to Aizawa. Can't we just kill them? Too much paperwork. Aizawa says. They are already being charged with child abuse and abandonment. A friend of mine, a detective, is personally handling the case, so I can assure you they won't escape justice. Fine, but they better hope I never meet them. Frank grumbles. Anyway, the arcade is actually a great choice. Katashi and Dobby, you two are going to take Izuku and Hitoshi to the arcade. Ronin says. The rest will organize everything. Why only them? Frank asks, pouting. Because you and Dobby are the ones who can suggest the arcade without Izuku suspecting anything. Ronin says. And they'll need adult supervision. You don't count as adult supervision, Frank. Meanie. Frank grumbles. Fine. So you want me to help decorate? Gods no. Chihiro chuckles. You and Mittens are on shopping duty. Ronin and I will decorate. And we asked Yamada's help because I'm sure he remembers the kitchen incident. Ronin adds. Well, we aren't any better than Izuku. Leave it to me, listeners. Yamada replies. I'll bake the best cake the zombie listener ever had. Does he have any preferences? Sweet. Dobby says. Very sweet. Ronin adds. Diabetes causing. Frank nods. I think you can't go wrong with chocolate. Chihiro says. Got it. Yamada says, grinning. I think I have everything I need to bake the cake. Help me check, Sho? Sure. Aizawa mutters, downing what's left of his coffee. Okay, we have the plan. Ronin says. Let's all make this the best birthday of Izuku's life. Everyone cheers with him. Even Aizawa raises an arm. Dash, straight face. Izuku is intrigued and excited at the same time. He's never been to an arcade before, and from what he knows, neither has Hitoshi. And wow, isn't that a foreign concept? Not only is he going to an arcade, but he's going with a friend. No, Dobby and Katashi don't count. Izuku sees Dobby as an older brother, and Katashi is like a fun uncle. Hitoshi is his first friend in so many years. Izuku's eyes widen as he enters the arcade. He has passed the arcade close to his old school many times, but he never entered it. The place looks much bigger inside, and there are games everywhere. Izuku doesn't even know where to start. Thankfully, he has two guides who seem to know how this works. Katashi and Dobby gesture towards a machine where they put a few bills and take tokens for the games. Then they start showing Izuku and Hitoshi around. There are so many games to try. Hitoshi and Dobby find an air hockey game, and their competitive spirits are instantly ignited. In less than a minute, they are in a superheated game. So heated that Izuku wonders if Dobby isn't accidentally using his quirk. Shrugging, Izuku and Katashi look for something else to play, and a few minutes later, they find a punching ball game. How does this work? Izuku asks, eyeing the punching bag. Katashi looks at it and inserts a token. Simple, give it your manliest punch. He says. Izuku eyes the machine for a few seconds, then throws a punch. The numbers rise and stop at, guess I'm not very strong. Izuku says. There's a lot of technique involved as well. Katashi replies. To punch harder, you'll want to add your weight to the punch. If possible, picking up momentum also helps. Remember the stance Ronin taught you? Use it. Izuku nods and takes a boxing stance as Katashi adds another token to the machine. He takes a step back and prepares. Momentum, stance, weight. He mumbles. All ready. Katashi says. Izuku nods and takes a running start towards the punching bag, then he stomps on the floor and throws a punch, spinning his body to add weight to it. The punch hits the bag and Izuku watches with a hitched breath as the numbers rise. Wow. This is more than twice his first score. That's amazing. See? I knew you could do it. Katashi says with a proud smile. You're so manly. What about you? I want to see you doing it. Izuku asks, giving his best puppy eyes. He knows his dull eyes make it a lot less effective, but it seems to work just fine on his zombies. Don't need to give me puppy eyes. Katashi laughs. I'll try. He puts another token and takes a stance similar to the one Izuku used. Katashi steps on the floor so hard that the sound echoes despite all the noise inside the arcade, and Izuku hears a loud boom as his fist connects with the punching bag. The numbers quickly rise to 999, the machine's limit. A new record. The machine announces, and Izuku jumps excitedly. That's a manly punch. Katashi says proudly. Amazing. Izuku says, running to Katashi. Glad you like it. Katashi says, now let's try another game? Izuku nods so quickly that he almost gets whiplash. Dash, straight face. Meanwhile, at the apartment, Chihiro and Ronin are working non-stop to decorate the house. Chihiro is hanging the balloons while Ronin fills them. Are they still there? Ronin asks. They are all in the arcade. Chihiro says. I hope they are having fun. Me too. Ronin replies. It's so rare for Izuku to be able to act his age. It's not fair. I'm the newest one here, so I don't know much about him. Chihiro says. There's not much to say. His mother was a cheating BSTRD, and she blamed Izuku when her husband discovered her infidelity. Ronin explains. And at school, he was bullied because of his quirk. His father is an abusive a-hole who dropped him in a forest to be killed by wolves. All that when he was just 6. Chihiro nods, turning back to the balloons she's hanging. It's surprising he can still trust people after all he went through. She says. Most people would want vengeance. Yeah. But Izuku doesn't have a single mean bone in his body. Ronin chuckles. I don't know how anyone could call him a villain. We are biased. Chihiro replies. And people are bigots. I guess you're right. Ronin says. We can't change people's minds. Yeah, but there's something we can do. Chihiro replies, smiling. We can make sure he has the best birthday he ever had. We completely agree on this. Ronin nods. So, back to work. There's a lot to do. Aye, Captain. Chihiro replies, and they go back to decorating. Everything needs to be perfect. Dash, straight face. Izuku finds Hitoshi leaning against a machine, looking at something on his cell phone. Near him, there is music playing and a small crowd watching something. With his curiosity piqued, Izuku approaches. Hey Toshi. What's happening? Look for yourself. Hitoshi says, pointing to the crowd. Izuku takes a step forward and sees what the crowd is looking at. A game called Dance Dance Revolution, which, as the name implies, is a dancing game. And the one dancing at speeds that Izuku didn't even know were possible is Dobby. He's dancing to a piano song called Rushy. How's that possible? Izuku asks. Hitoshi shrugs. Don't know. Maybe it's because he's too light. He says. I mean, he's literally just bones. Found it. What are you doing? Izuku asks, glancing over Hitoshi's shoulder at his phone. Ordering the DDR game for home. Hitoshi explains. I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna set it up in the lab or my own room. Why? Izuku asks, raising an eyebrow. Practice. Hitoshi replies. Dobby completely kicked my butt in this game. And why not the lab? Izuku asks. Hitoshi lowers his phone and looks at Izuku with a manic competitive gleam in his eyes. Then he points back to Dobby. And let this skeletal jackass get even more practice? No thanks. I'm defeating him next time we play. He says. All right. Izuku shrugs. Well, this looks fun. I'll try it. Then he steps over just as Dobby is finishing his song. Hey Izu. Wanna try? He asks as he starts the next song. A song called Valkyrie Dimension. I'll go easy on you. He says with a wink. Izuku still doesn't know how he can always tell Dobby's expressions. Don't worry about me. Izuku replies, grinning as he tests the game. Okay, I'm ready. Dobby nods and starts the song. So, I just follow the arrows, right? Izuku confirms. Exactly. Dobby says. Don't be too disgruntled if you don't do very well. It's a hard game. Izuku shrugs and starts following the dance. And immediately, everyone's jaw drops. The song has a little over 2 minutes, and by the end of it, Izuku has a perfect score. Dobby also did very well but missed 2 arrows, so Izuku won. What the hell? Hitoshi, who saw everything, says. How? I thought it was your first time playing. Dobby asks in surprise. It is. Izuku shrugs. But it's just reaction time and following patterns. It's not that hard. Again. Dobby says. Let's play again. All right. Izuku accepts and waits for Dobby to put on the next song. One called Over the PRD. I won't lose again. Dobby says and starts the song. To his dismay, the last song wasn't just beginner's luck. Again, Izuku ends with a perfect score, while Dobby misses a single arrow during the music, so Izuku wins again. After they finish the song, they see Katashi approaching with his phone in his hands. Hey guys, ready to go home? Yes. I guess. Dobby says with a nonchalant shrug, but Izuku can hear the pout in his voice and has to hold himself not to laugh. I'm tired anyway. Guess I can't dance as well as usual. Tired? Izuku asks, raising an eyebrow. But you have infinite stamina. As I said, I'm tired, so let's go home. Dobby replies, which makes Izuku and Hitoshi laugh. You're tired? Izuku says. Let's go home. He follows Katashi. As they are leaving, Katashi looks at Izuku. So, did you have fun? Yes. It was so much fun. Thank you for bringing us here. Izuku replies. I'm glad you liked it. Katashi replies. They go back to the apartment, and just before entering, Dobby puts a bony hand over Izuku's eyes. Close your eyes, Green Bean. We have one last surprise for you today. He says. A surprise? Why? Yes. You'll see. Dobby says. Izuku sighs and does as Dobby said. Dobby guides Izuku inside. The apartment is unusually quiet, which is very suspicious. Usually, he would at least be hearing Mittens working inside her office. Okay, what's happening? Izuku asks. Well, Green Bean. Dobby says and pulls his hand away from Izuku's eyes. Happy birthday. Izuku almost falls back in surprise as he takes everything in. The living room is decorated with lots of balloons, and there's confetti flying everywhere. Izuku looks at each of them with his mouth agape, then at the chocolate cake on the table. Then he pulls out his phone and checks the date. It's July 15th. Today is his birthday. When was the last time someone did something that nice for him on his birthday? Ever since he was 4, this day has been nothing more than a reminder that he's a mistake. That he's the result of his mother's infidelity. He remembers his 5th birthday. Hisashi almost killed him that day, but nothing hurt more than his mother's words that day. You should have never been born. Yet, here are all the people he loves. And they came together to make him see this day as a special day again. It's too much. Izuku can feel the tears starting to fall from his eyes. And at the same time, he can feel the grin stretching his face. I love you guys. Izuku says. Thank you. Dobby gives him a nudge forward, and they all fall into a group hug. Not even Aizawa has the heart to deny it. Izuku had never felt so happy in his life. All this time he's been missing his family, but now he gets it. This is his family. A family made of 6 zombies, an insomniac kid, a loud blonde, and a tired underground hero. They are a weird family, but to Izuku, they are perfect. If you ask anyone, Guildmaster Star is a sly fox in human skin. The old man cares about nothing but the guild and will do absolutely anything to ensure that the guild always comes out on top. Everyone avoids him like the plague. With that in mind, how the hell did Izuku end up having tea with him every Friday night? Izuku is probably the first person in many years to get to know Star's human side. Now, everything said above about Star is the purest truth, and Izuku will be the first to confirm it. However, while it is true that Star will always try to come out on top, one fact is that the man is just. His deals always result in victory for both sides. And he knows how to cultivate good relations. Maybe it's his quirk, which makes him always know who is worth being on good terms with. Or maybe Izuku reminds him of somebody he used to know. Whatever the reason is, Izuku is much closer to the Guildmaster than anyone in the guild, and as such, he knows more about the old man than most. For instance, he's currently 78 years old, and his birthday is February 29th. His favorite tea is white tea. He likes to play chess because it's the game where he can put his analysis to use. He loves dramatics, which is why his movements and expressions are so exaggerated most of the time. He cares more about the guild's reputation and power than money. And he's very interested in Izuku. Which brings them to this Friday night. Izuku and Star are having their usual tea party and enjoying a nice chess game. Izuku has yet to win a game, but he's improving fast, and even when he loses, he still has fun. Checkmate, Star says. And this makes 38-0. Izuku says with a dry laugh. Either you're too good, or I'm too bad. You are improving very quickly. Star replies. I can give you some pointers. I would rather you explain this contract I found in my pile. Izuku replies, pulling the paper and laying it on the table. The objective is simple, and the payment is great. But why is there no client? Oh, I forgot to explain about those? Sorry about that. I think age is starting to get to me. Star chuckles. This contract was put on by a VIP. Those are clients who pay a hefty sum to stay anonymous. All negotiations with them are handled by myself. Am I safe to take those contracts? Izuku asks, raising an eyebrow. I can assure you they don't hold any more power than regular clients. Star replies. The only difference between regular and VIP clients is the extra anonymity. VIP clients are mostly the ones who ask for assassinations or important information theft. I see. Izuku looks back at the paper. In this case, I'll accept this one. I imagine this would be the case. Star smiles. You can bring the information straight to me, and I'll have your reward. All right. Izuku nods and then looks back to the chessboard. Now, about those pointers you spoke of? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. He points to the board. For starters, you aren't using your knights well. Dash, straight face. With the distraction team, consisting of Dobby, Frank, and Mittens, doing what they do best, Izuku enters through the window. Ronin, Chihiro, and Katashi entered through different windows. Izuku finds himself inside a huge, practically empty office. Just like everything else in Endeavor's agency. Seriously, what is this guy's deal with big things? Is he trying to compensate for something? Shaking his head, Izuku starts looking for the documents he needs to steal. Years of incidents with collateral damage and civilian casualties that Endeavor has used his money and status to cover up. If I were a pile of highly incriminating documents, where would I be? Izuku asks himself. There's a vault behind Endeavor's giant portrait. Izuku walks to the wall and moves the portrait out of the way, finding the safe. The code is 489235. Izuku puts on the code and opens it, finding a huge pile with all kinds of documents inside. Then just as he's about to grab it, he realizes what just happened and turns around. There's a boy sitting at the giant chair. Really, Endeavor is definitely trying to compensate for something with his feet over the table and playing on a handheld console. The boy has half red, half white hair and a big scar over his left eye, which covers a good part of his face. And he doesn't seem to mind Izuku being there at all. Hi. Izuku says. Hello. Are you an assassin? The boy asks. Are you here to kill my father? I'm not here to kill anyone. Izuku replies. I'm Necromancer, a mercenary. I'm just here to steal these papers. Oh, the boy looks very disappointed that Izuku isn't here to kill his father. Are you sure you don't want to kill Endeavor? This boy is Endeavor's son? And he wants Izuku to kill his father? What the f is happening here? Assassinations are very expensive. Izuku says. Especially hero assassinations, and even more someone as powerful as Endeavor. The boy puts his game at the desk and gets up, searching over his pockets. He pulls a coin out. I have 100 yen. Then he pulls out a pack of sandwich cookies. And a pack of Oreos. That's not enough. Izuku says, and the boy's dejected expression makes him feel bad. But for that, I can trip him while he walks. He taps his chin a few times. And if you tell me your name, I'll do it while he's in public. Deal. He gives Izuku the Oreos and the coin. My name is Todoroki Shuto. Well, Shuto, Izuku says with a smile. It's evident from the clear distaste he has for his father that the kid doesn't like to be called Todoroki. If we meet again, maybe I can tell you my true name. He winks and starts walking to the window after gathering all the papers. Until then. He puts a finger at his lips in a sign of silence, then jumps out the window. I got the goods, he says in his comms. Distraction team, time to escape. The others meet me up in front of the agency. All right. Ronin says. Okie dokie. Dobby says. Time for a smoke screen. The moment he says this, Izuku hears an explosion. Shaking his head, Izuku moves to the meeting point. He sees a vending machine close, so he uses the 100 yen Shuto gave him to buy a drink and starts eating the Oreos as Ronin approaches. Where did you get those? He asks, raising an eyebrow and taking one when Izuku offers. Payment in advance for an extra job. Izuku shrugs. Oh, there's my target here, hold this. He gives the folders with all the documents they stole to Ronin as he sees Endeavor leaving the agency. The front of the agency is on fire, and the firefighters are already trying to control it. Now's the time. Izuku pulls down his hoodie and starts playing the panicking child while he runs towards the agency. Mom? Mom, where are you? He screams as he walks. Endeavor, being the Jr. he is, just ignores him, but the moment he passes by Izuku, the green-haired boy quickly sweeps his feet, which, thanks to the wet floor, is enough to make Endeavor slip and fall face-first on the floor. Thanks to the fire, a lot of people are recording it, and thanks to it, less than an hour later, the video of Endeavor falling is trending all over social media. Izuku, of course, made sure to be in a blind spot, so no cameras could record his face. Mission accomplished. Smirking to himself, Izuku walks back to the rest of his team, and they all fall back. Back at the guild, Izuku delivers the documents and gets his reward. This is the best-paying job he did to this day, and his other jobs didn't pay badly. He'll keep an eye out for other VIP contracts in the future. Those pay very well. Straight face. Star walks to the secret meeting room with a folder containing incriminating documents about the number 2 hero. Necromancer and his zombie party never cease to impress him. It's like no job is too hard for the kid, and Star can only imagine how incredible he'll be in a few years. Shaking his head, Star puts on his business smile and enters. His VIP client is already inside, enjoying a nice cup of tea. His white ears twitch as he hears Star's footsteps, and his bead eyes instantly are at him. Hello, Guildmaster. Am I a mouse? A dog? A bear? I'm the principal, he says. And more importantly, do you have what I asked? Hello, Mr. Principal. Star replies. There you go. He slides the folder over the table and starts pouring himself a cup of white tea. Nezu opens the folder and starts examining it. Then he starts cackling. That's amazing. This necromancer is even better than you said. He says. I told you. Star chuckles. Though, if you could indulge this old man, could you perhaps answer a question? No need to be so formal, Star. Nezu replies. We are friends after all. You know how I am, Nezu. Star shrugs. But anyway, do you think a mercenary could become a hero? Oh, that's an interesting question. Nezu replies. I don't see why not. Is this about Necromancer? The kid has a truly heroic heart. Star says. And more potential than 90% of the heroes I ever met. Even Eraserhead seems to agree. I want to meet him. But Eraserhead has been very tight-lipped about him. Nezu chuckles. But that's not a problem for me. I'll eventually meet him. And if he wants to be a hero, I'd certainly help him. The limelights might not accept him, but the underground will. Agreed. Star nods. So, I know you're a busy person, but care for a game before leaving? He points to the chessboard. I thought you would never ask. Nezu replies. You're one of my favorite opponents. Dash, straight face. Sheet, this shouldn't be happening. It was supposed to be just a normal patrol. Everything was going well. Shoyuda was jumping across the rooftops when he heard shouting. Two groups were pointing guns at each other, apparently an argument between gangs or something. The important thing is that they were on the verge of attacking each other, so Shoyuda jumped to stop them. However, the moment they saw him, they all immediately started attacking him. And that was the moment Shoyuda realized that they all have mutation quirks and clearly know how Eraserhead fights. He fell into an ambush. Shoyuda is used to setting ambushes, not falling into them. He's at a serious disadvantage fighting so many people at the same time. There are at least 10 mutant quirks, and more are arriving by the second. He has no escape route either. Shoyuda is literally fighting for his life at the moment, and he's not exactly winning. He managed to knock out a good chunk of the thugs, but more and more keep appearing, and he's starting to slow down. Heh, looks like this is the end of the great Eraserhead. A man with an obvious bear mutation says, walking to Shoyuda with his sharp claws on display. Shoyuda tries to lunge at him, but the man dodges and digs his claws into Shuda's chest. Goodbye, Eraserhead. Then he pulls his claws away, tearing through Shuda's flesh. Shoyuda falls to his knees, trying to hold the bleeding as the man walks away. Sheet, he can't die like this. He's leaving so many people behind. Hito. Aizu. I'm sorry. Shoyuda hears screams, and suddenly the air around him heats, but he can barely process what's happening. Get back here, you cowards. This voice is familiar. Who's that? His consciousness is beginning to fade from the loss of blood. Shoyuda barely feels any pain, but it is as if the world is losing its color. The only thing he sees is red. Sheet. Dobby, how long until Frank gets here? Another familiar voice calls. Shoyuda feels himself being turned around and someone applying pressure to his chest. He's 20 minutes away. The first voice replies. We don't have 20 minutes. Shoyuda opens his eyes and sees a pair of green eyes tearfully looking at him. Aizu, he says. Don't talk, Aizawa. You'll be fine. Izuku says. Hold on a little more. Don't die on me. That's impossible. Shoyuda can't keep himself awake anymore, and he's sure Izuku knows it. Sorry? Shoyuda says as his eyes get heavier and heavier. No. You can't die, okay? Izuku replies. Hito needs you. Yamada needs you. I need you, Aizawa. He feels the kid's tears falling on his face, but he can't keep his eyes open. He just feels so tired. No. Stay awake, Aizawa. Aizawa. The last thing he hears before everything goes dark is Izuku's desperate words. Aizawa. Izuku is panicking, and he's not one to panic often. But what can he do? Aizawa is about to die in front of him, and there's nothing he can do. He doesn't want to let Aizawa die, but Frank won't get here on time. Aizawa, please stay with us. His tears are falling non-stop, soaking Aizawa's face, but the man doesn't react. Izuku can feel his pulse getting weaker by the second. No, please. I won't let you go like this. Izuku knows what he has to do. He really hopes Aizawa will forgive him for that. He keeps his hand pressed against Aizawa's neck, feeling his pulse, and as soon as it stops, Izuku pulls his knife. Dobby, keep us safe. Izuku says. Understood. Dobby replies. The lack of a joke only shows how serious the situation is. Izuku puts his hand above Aizawa and makes a cut in his wrist with a bit more force than needed. His blood falls like a faucet soaking Aizawa's body and clothes. Come on, Aizawa. Come back to us. Izuku says, sounding almost like a prayer. And maybe he really is praying. Praying that what happened to Chihiro was not a fluke. Because bringing Aizawa back but with no memory seems crueler than letting the man die. No, this can't happen. This has to work. Wake up, Aizawa. Wake up. Izuku says, pressing his fingers against his palm. The blood falls even faster. Aizawa's wounds start closing until there's nothing left of them. A few seconds later, the man opens his eyes. Izuku looks at him, his eyes filled with anticipation. Izuku? Aizawa asks. Am I? You're back. Izuku says, smiling. You're back. Aizawa notices Izuku's bleeding wrist and his blood-soaked clothes. It only takes a second to put two and two together. Izuku, did you? Before he can say anything, Izuku stumbles and falls forward. Straight face. Shoyuta rushes to hold Izuku as the kid falls forward. He looks even paler than usual. His wrist is still bleeding. Usually it would have already stopped. DMN, Izuku. How deep did you cut? Shoyuta says as he presses his capture weapon to try to stop the bleeding. I got most of the guys. Dobby says as he approaches. How's Aiza? What the hell? Not the time. We need to rush. Shoyuta says, holding Izuku in his arms. His capture weapon is tightly wrapped around his wrist. Shoyuta starts running, and Dobby follows him. So, I guess you're one of us now. Dobby says, sprinting behind Shoyuta. How are your memories? I think it's everything here. Shoyuta replies. I can't remember what I had for dinner tonight, but I don't think I forgot anything important. Okay, let's go through the main street. Frank will meet us on the way. Dobby says. So let's speed up. I'm already running at my maximum speed. Shoyuta says, raising an eyebrow. No, you're not. Dobby replies. You can push past your living limits now. Just try. Shoyuta nods and does as he said. To his surprise, Dobby is correct. He can exceed his limits without even breaking a sweat. 2 streets ahead, they find Frank, who takes a glance at Aizawa and understands what happened. Sorry for your death. He says. How's Izuku? A mess. Shoyuta replies. I died in front of him. He cut too deep. Leave it to me. Frank says, and Shoyuta sets the kid on the floor. Frank immediately goes to work, healing the cut on Izuku's wrist. Meanwhile, Shoyuta grabs his phone and calls Hizashi. The call barely rings twice before Hizashi answers. Sho? Did something happen? Yes. I have good and bad news. Shoyuta says. I don't like this game, Shoyuta. Zashi replies. What's the bad news? I've been caught in an ambush. Shoyuta says. Dozens of villains with mutations. The leader had a bear mutation. He got me. What? Zashi says. You don't sound wounded. Izuku found me, Shoyuta says. Hizashi stays silent for several seconds. So much so that Shoyuta has to check that the call didn't drop. Please tell me you're not saying what I think you're saying. Zashi pleads. I died, Zashi. Shoyuta says. I'm a zombie now. Oh God. Zashi chokes. It's okay, Hito. He's fine. Shoyuta hears his husband reassuring their son. Sho, where are you? I'll be back soon, Zashi. Shoyuta says. I've just met with Frank. He's helping Izuku. He's fine, but he overdid it when reanimating me. Fine, I'll be waiting for you. Zashi says. But Sho, don't think you'll get rid of me just because you're dead. Not even death will do us apart. Shoyuta says. Not even death. Zashi replies. See you soon. Hanging the call, Shoyuta goes back to where Frank, Dobby, and Izuku are. Izuku is still unconscious. How is he? Shoyuta asks. He's fine. Frank says. He's just exhausted. That's good. Shoyuta says. Well, we should go back. Dobby says. We aren't very far from where you were ambushed, the police won't take too long to get there, and I'd rather not have to explain what happened. Fair. Shoyuta pulls Izuku in his arms and starts walking away. What happened to them? Most ran away as soon as I started to burn everything. Dobby replies. The leader escaped. I'll have to find them later. Shoyuta sighs. I won't let them escape. Oh, we have a vengeful spirit in the area. Frank laughs. Shut up. Shoyuta grumbles. So, what should we call you? Dobby says as they walk. What do you mean? Shoyuta asks. Arsonist. Dobby points to himself. Fixer. He points to Frank. Fighter, barbarian, artificer, ranger. You're a zombie now. You need a class. No. Shoyuta says. Well, the obvious choice would be rogue. Frank says. I mean true. But also, did you see his sleeping bag? He looks like a caterpillar. Dobby points. I vote druid. Shoyuta just sighs and keeps walking. Shoyuta looks at the warehouse. It has been a few weeks since his zombification, and since then he has been working on searching for the villains who killed him. He discovered that they were part of a group calling themselves the Beast Union. A stupid name, but they are a gang where all the members have mutation quirk and are involved in various crimes. Well, it's time to make an arrest. Usually, Shoyuta would enter from the roof and try to set an ambush, but there's no use in doing that this time. So instead he walks in by the front door. The thing about this warehouse is that there's only one exit unless you can fly. And Shoyuta knows that the only flying member they had was burned to a crisp by Dobby. Shoyuta cracks his fingers and then kicks the door. Immediately everyone is on alert and looking at him. Shoyuta can see how they recognize him by their expressions mimicking a bunch of fishes. What? How are you alive? The leader asks. Who says I'm alive? Shoyuta asks, smirking. Kill him. Kill him. The leader yells, and 5 villains pull a gun and start shooting at Shoyuta. The bullets hit him in his arms, legs, chest, and one in his head. The impact makes Shoyuta fall to the floor. Good luck coming back this time. The leader laughs. I don't need luck. Shoyuta replies, getting up. The villains all look at Shoyuta in horror. The bullet wounds are all there, it's possible to see through the hole in his head, and yet here he is. Standing. What? That's impossible. The leader whispers. Now. Shoyuta says, pulling a bullet out of his chest. I think it's my turn. His eyes turn red, and his hair starts floating as he jumps at the villains. People who were nearby in the future will report hearing terrified screams coming from inside the warehouse. The captured villains would speak of a hero dressed in black who simply would not die no matter how hard they attacked. These occurrences would become increasingly common, creating a new urban legend. The immortal hero. An unknown underground hero known to leave most of the villains traumatized. As Shoyuta walks back home, he thinks about how he's going to explain this to Zashi. He feels completely fine, but something tells him that Zashi won't believe him. After all, he's literally carrying his head in his arms like some kind of Dullahan creature. Well, he has to admit being a zombie makes hero work a lot easier, and he dares say much more amusing as well. The memory of the terror in the criminal's eyes when Shoyuta still got up after losing his head will be forever burned in his memories. But for now, Shoyuta climbs through the building where he lives and goes to Zashi's window. He can't risk walking through the door and being seen like this. It'll be too much to explain. Maybe he should start carrying needles and thread with him? That way, if it happens again, he can sew his head back on, at least as a temporary solution. Shoyuta knocks on Zashi's window. Sho! Zashi opens the window. Did you forget your keys, AG-? He stops with the window half open, seeing Shoyuta holding his head. Shoyuta activates erasure, but to his surprise, Zashi doesn't scream. Instead, his husband simply faints, falling on his back, and the window closes again. Zashi? Zashi? He hears no response. Looks like he really fainted. Sighing, Shoyuta goes to the next window, which belongs to Hitoshi, and knocks again. Hitoshi opens the window and stares at him for several seconds. Nope. Not today, demon. He closes the window and starts walking away. Nope. 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 His voice gets lower and lower as he walks out of the room. Oh, come on. Shoyuta says in frustration and goes to the next window. If he is not mistaken, that window leads to Mittens' office. He can hear the sound of tools at work coming from inside. He knocks on the door hoping the cat will hear him. The sound stops, and he sees a mechanical arm open the window. He sighs and enters. Usually, losing your head is just a metaphor. Mittens says, "Leave me alone." Shoyuta grumbles. "Is Frank home?" "Lab?" Shoyuta tilts the head in his arms like a nod and walks out. Of course, today is the day that all the team is home. Dobby and Ronin are watching TV in the living room. Chihiro is cleaning her bow. Katashi is beating a punching bag. As soon as Shoyuta steps out, all eyes are on him. "Wow," Dobby says. "Nice shot." "Shut up." Shoyuta grumbles, ignoring the fact that he has a bullet hole in his head. He simply walks to Frank's door and knocks. The door opens, and Frank looks at him with a raised eyebrow. "I think this answers the question of how durable we are," he says, stepping out and pulling Shoyuta by the sleeve to the table. "Sit down and hold your head in place, please." Shoyuta does as he said, and as Frank is moving to start the healing, another door opens, and Izuku steps out, rubbing his eyes. He's walking to the kitchen when he seems to notice there's one more person in the room. He turns to Shoyuta and rubs his eyes as if to make sure he's really seeing this. "Please tell me this will not be a recurring incident." He walks to the kitchen and comes back with a glass of water. "I don't know if Yamada's heart can handle it." "I don't intend it to be," Shoyuta replies. "Hold still," Frank says. "Hey Dobby, give me a hand here." "Sure. Left or right?" Dobby replies. "What?" Frank asks, and when he looks, Dobby is throwing his right arm at him. Frank blinks at the arm crawling towards him, then chuckles. "Okay, that's a good one. Ronin, help me here." Ronin sighs and gets up, helping hold Shuta's head in the correct position as Frank heals it. "I'm going back to bed," Izuku says, yawning. "Good night, guys." "Good night, Aizawa." As he walks away, Dobby looks intently at Shoyuta. "How the hell did this even happen?" Shoyuta sighs and explains what happened earlier. As he tells them about how he fought the criminal gang alone, everyone looks at him like he's crazy. Which is fair but rude. "You know what? Forget what I said." Dobby says, "Druid is not a good name for you." "Of course it's not." Shoyuta grumbles. "You are effing berserker." Dobby says, emphasizing the last word. Shoyuta can feel his eye twitch at the name. "Don't move," Frank says. "I'm almost finished." Shoyuta sighs again. He's been doing that a lot lately, and he has a feeling he'll be doing it a lot more. What has my life become? He grumbles to himself. Straight face. What happened to the symbol of peace? Izuku reads the headline in the newspaper with a frown on his face. His 10th birthday was a few weeks ago, and just like last year, his team went all out. That day he had watched on the news as All Might fought a villain called Toxic Chainsaw. But now that he thinks about it, All Might has yet to make an appearance since that fight. As people must be aware, All Might, Japan's #1 hero and the symbol of peace, hasn't been active ever since his fight against the villain Toxic Chainsaw. People are starting to speculate what happened. The theories are various. Some believe All Might decided to take a vacation, but this is a difficult theory to believe. Since his debut decades ago, All Might has never taken more than 2 days off in a row. The symbol of peace never rests. People are waiting for a statement from his agency, but the Might Tower has been suspiciously tight-lipped about the matter. This leads us to speculate, has something happened to the symbol of peace? It is hard to even imagine the possibility, but as powerful as All Might is, he's still a human being. Could it be that the peace symbol has finally faced a villain up to his level? How powerful would such a villain be? The truth is that until the HPSC or Might Tower makes a statement, we won't know what happened. Izuku lowers the newspaper. A villain at All Might's level? That's practically impossible to imagine, but being part of the underground, Izuku is privy to some information that most people aren't. One such piece of information is more of a legend than anything else. And yet, could the boogeyman of the underground be real? Izuku mutters to himself. Hey, Izuku. Ronin calls. We found the target. Izuku puts the newspaper away and puts his hood up. He can think about this later. For now, he has work to do. Barbarian, block his exit. Izuku says. Fighter, you stay here. If you can get a clean shot, do it. Fighter nods and gets his sniper rifle ready. Okay, let's go. Barbarian says. Then he holds Izuku and jumps down the building, hardening his legs to absorb the impact. They drop right in front of the target. A middle-aged man wearing glasses and a suit. The client doesn't care about the methods. He just wants this person dead. And after learning the reason, Izuku is very inclined to agree. Who are you? The man asks. You angered someone you shouldn't. Izuku says as Barbarian stands in the only way out of this alley. Thing, Izuku can't even call it a human, is a teacher at an elementary school. He's also a Pefli who abused more than 20 students in his career. Of course, the police didn't do anything because he always chooses as victims kids with villainous quirks or quirkless. But to his misfortune, his last victim was the son of someone with a lot of money and connections with the underground. Though, to be honest, even if the client couldn't pay him, Izuku would still have accepted this job. Child abusers are the kind of people he hates the most. Stay back. The man says, backing into a corner. He seems more worried about Katashi than Izuku. Which is fair. Izuku is a 10-year-old boy, and Katashi is built like FANG tank. Still, Izuku has a scythe in his hands. And he knows how to use it. He probably won't need it, though. Just one more step back and a bang is heard, and a bullet quickly goes through the Pefli's head. He falls to the floor, bleeding. Then Izuku pulls a folder and drops it over the body. The folder is filled with pictures of the things he did to children, and so proudly recorded. Disgusting. Izuku mutters as he walks away. Ronin drops down next to him, and Katashi follows them. Well, job done. Izuku says. Let's go. Yeah. Just a minute. Ronin walks over to the body and pulls out a pistol, unloading the clip on the corpse. All right, let's go. Was that necessary? Izuku asks. Ronin just shrugs and they walk away.